game like Spades. And here you'll see it on Farkle, another one of our 6 hacking games that you get free on. So you'll see it and you'll feel the vibration. We have haptic feedback. And watch it pour it out, boom, and the dice pour right out onto the screen. Motion controls are also really important, especially for casual gamers. So a lot of our sports and recreation, for example, will use that kind of motion control. You'll see here with cornhole, the bag into the hole. By the way, this is another game that comes free on every console. Now our main disc is really unique as well. Most directional pads have 8 positions, up, down, left, right, and the diagonals. It has 64 directions and touch sensitivity. Here's a feature I think a lot of gamers love. I can take my controller and go from the docking system. Because it recognizes that it's my controller, we can now play all of my games that I own on your system. Another cool feature that we incorporated is wireless contact charging. So once you're done with your controller, dock it right back into the base and it charges. Another unique feature from Nico is that we have interactive lighting all throughout the console itself.
Oh, el ultra umbral.
Controllers. We also have RFID built throughout the entire console,
Ay.
which means you can get a gift card, for example, tap it on the system, and it shows up in the. You know what's really cool about having the focus be people playing together? I'll give you an example. Astro Smash is a 4-player game. At any point during the game, somebody can pick up a controller and just hit the ship they want and go right into the game at any point. Now, for all you collectors out there, you'll be happy to know that not only do we download games digitally, but we also have physical media as well, and we'll be releasing more information about that later this year. Now, here's something I think a lot of gamers are going to appreciate. We don't allow any loot boxes, in-game purchases, in-app advertising, or paid download content, but what we do have is an online leaderboard system for most of our games, where you can go in there and check your scores against your state, the country, the world, or the month, the year, and of all time. And those scores tie into achievements as well. So if you have the high score at the end of the month of your country, we're going to email your certificate and you can go print out and hang on your wall. Now, as we all know, the most important part of any video game system are the games themselves. They all have to be super fun to play. And that's where we really shine. In fact, all of our games on our system are highly curated. All of them contain a single and multiplayer or couch co-op mode. And all the games on our system are exclusive or contain exclusive content. Like Retro Reimagine, where we take some of the greatest classic video games of all time, give them new graphics, new audio, add multiplayer and couch co-op. Some of the things we have, for example, 12 of the best games from Atari, like Breakout, Asteroids, Tempest, Missile Command. We have games like Burger Time and Bump and Jump, and
aunque no lo parezca, son juegos muy
television
entretenidos.
games from the past, like Cloudy Mountain and Night Stalker. We have edutainment titles for kids 7 and under, things like Sesame Street and Care Bears. Now, our original IP category contains brand new games that we've created a lot of times around our unique controller. Some of those games are platformers like Finnegan Fox, Bomb Squad, Space Strikers, Flying Tigers, and we even got the original Echo the Dolphin team to create our new title called Dolphin Quest. We even take more modern games and add exclusive co-op modes. Games like Rigid Force Redux Enhanced and Dino Blaster. Now, our sports and recreational category not only has big sports like Major League Baseball and soccer, but also recreational sports like cornhole, skiing, pool, and many more. Now, our casual category contains many party games, dice games, board games, card games, things like spades, emoji charades, and even award-winning board games like Blank Slate, Telestrations, and Ink and Gold. Now, I've already mentioned some really big partnerships and licenses like Major League Baseball and Sesame Street, but we have even more, including things like Mattel Hot Wheels, Harlem Globetrotters, and so much more. Now, we've previously announced that we're doing a brand new exclusive Earthworm Jim game for Intellivision. And we got the original team to be working on it. We wanted to do something special. So we're going to give away 3 of these new prints. All of the team members signed it. All you have to do is email cow@intellivision.com with the subject line Groovy. You have till the end of June to do that, and then we'll announce 3 winners at the end of the month. Well, thank you for spending a little time with us here today. Hopefully, as you can see, our approach is a little different than everything else that's out there, and we really don't view others as competition. What we're doing, we view as complementary to what the video game industry is doing. It's such an exciting time to be in the industry, to be a fan of the industry, and we are fans of the video game industry. And you know, if there's something that you've seen here today that might be of interest, or maybe you're a developer who wants to make some games for us, maybe you want to place a pre-order, please go to Intellivision.com. We want to hear from you.
Amigo.
Thank you, Tommy, for that look at Intellivision. Guys, what I appreciate the most is that he started the presentation with, this isn't like what you've seen before at E3, right? We're doing something different. We're going in a different direction.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
Yeah, so, you know, I've been saying this a lot. I've always been a fan of the offbeat, the different. I always seek that experience out no matter what game I play. And I would say that this definitely, like, check those boxes for me. You know, I owned an old Intellivision, a ColecoVision, you know, like I had those as a kid. My uncle would bring them in and we'll play games together. It was always a fun time. It was a Smurfs game that I could never finish. It was like the bane of my existence.
This is your second chance.
Yeah,
you're gonna get
another opportunity of doing it. But I do like the idea behind it, and I also like too, like, there's an opportunity here even for independent developers to like get involved and make something super unique on a platform that is unconventional in comparison to what you see out there, you know, in the modern gaming era.
Yeah, Jackie, how's it resonate with you?
So all I heard was Earthworm Jim, and I was just Earthworm Jim? I haven't heard that in forever. Oh my gosh, my brother and I used to mess with that all the time on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Absolutely adored it. So I personally think that it's opening up a lot of accessibility. Like, if you purchase this is something that if your friends don't game, you could be like, hey, this is really simple.
Very true. Yeah.
I was gonna say it looks like a phone, but it's kind of like a 2001 iPod. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
with the
pretty
dial.
simple,
Yeah, with the dial.
right? Yeah. And I just think it'd be very easy for someone to pick up, and the games are also very accessible as well. So I think that this is something I could play with my parents. All I could think of was Mario Kart. My dad tried to play Wario, and you know, that was a slower character, and he was just, it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
Yeah, I understand.
Maybe he could do better with the Amico. So for me, what stood out was definitely Earthworm Jim, and then definitely accessibility.
Yeah, that's their whole thing with it, right? And again, I like the idea that they're presenting something different at the end there. Tommy talking about the fact that we don't look at other people as competition because they're clearly in a different market, right? It reminds me how I talk about Nintendo all the time, marching to their own beat, right? When everything started going HD, really, you know, a multiplayer focus, Nintendo didn't do that. There's a lot of interesting ideas with it, right? I think obviously talking about it being the party machine is an excellent idea. But then also the fact that, I really, it resonated with me, the controller, that it's connected to your game, so that if you do have a friend who had this, that if you walked over and put your controller into your,
that was really cool.
All the games you own, you'd be able to play on their system.
The dice was really neat when he was like,
yeah, we got half. Well, I mean, they were definitely on purpose giving us very many callbacks to the Wii.
Yeah.
When I saw the little girl bowling, I was like, all right, I know what I'm getting.
I also like the price points they set for a lot of their games, very cheap. I think it was like $10 for downloadable. I think it was like $15 for physical or $20 for physical, which, you know that they're going to be coming in pretty cheap. But a lot of these things always boil down to that input, right? Like, and in this case, the controller is the appeal for this. I quite like it. We live in an age now, especially, with the year that we had, where let's be real, like having couch co-op, that's unrivaled. Like, we need more couch co-op games. Look, I love
singing your
online.
praises right
I love
now, for
online, but
real.
more couch co-op. I'm all about it in television. Thank you so much for bringing that to light, and I hope it becomes more of a staple with a lot of the big name game companies moving forward as well.
Yeah. I love the idea too of that if you are the top in your country or whatever, at the end of the month they send you a certificate to print.
That's cool.
Put up. That's pretty
You're like,
cool.
look,
Yeah, it's like very Twin Galaxies type vibe. I like that a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, cornhole. They make a cornhole game, so that's all we.
That's all you need. Cornhole, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, the year was 1995, and the Electronic Entertainment Expo debuted for the first time in front and center in the world of gaming. Lots of things have changed since then. 16-bit graphics have given way to HD renders and virtual reality headsets, but we wouldn't be where we are today without the developments and announcements of those early years. Here's a look back at the first adventure.
Primera E3 del 95.
It is absolutely no wonder that
Ahí
E3
estaba
continued
Sega,
to live on after its
Nintendo.
very first show. The show was massive. There was a surprise console launch. You could get a Killer Instinct character tattoo while you played Game Boy. You could try out not one, but 3 VR headsets. And this is all in 1995. So let's take a look through a sometimes 4x3 lens at what the first ever E3 was like. May 11th through 13th, 1995, over 55,000 industry, retailer, and press attended the debut Electronics Entertainment Expo at the Los Angeles Convention Center. There was no shortage of games you could just walk up and play, especially at the Atari Jaguar booth. This would be the only year the Jaguar system would have a booth, but it came in big and even showed off a VR peripheral that was still in development. Or you could meet Rayman and try out his new game. This was one of the first times you could get your hands on the game that would eventually become a 45-game series. There's tons to check out at this booth, including Primal Rage, a violent dinosaur fighting game, White Men Can't Jump, a basketball game based on the movie, and my personal favorite, VLM, or Virtual Light Machine. Just walking around the floors, you'll come across Mortal Kombat 3 characters putting on a stage fight that spills into the audience. You could grab a photo with Beavis and Butthead or a Klingon, ride Judge Dredd's motorcycle, or even check out the Batmobile from Batman Forever. And of course, there was no shortage of games that you would stumble upon that are worth playing, like the legendary RPG Chrono Trigger, Earthworm Jim 2, Resident Evil, Ridge Racer, and unique games like Street Fighter the Movie The Game, and a port of the Aerosmith game, Revolution X. There were also plenty of sports games, an industry that would explode in popularity. Games like NBA Jam Tournament Edition, NFL Quarterback Club 96, and FIFA Soccer 96, which is only the third FIFA game in the now famous series. The press conferences lived up to their name, with studio execs in suits at podiums presenting slideshows. The slides consisted mostly of goals, stats, and advertising strategies, but there were hints of the future in their presentations.
Side-scrolling games, for all the fun and success they brought us, will ultimately give way to newer, more complex genres.
And looks at the industry, then a $5 billion industry that is now an over $150 billion industry. One thing that hasn't changed is that classic E3 excitement when a game is shown. Sega's press conference was all about their new system, the Sega Saturn, and they even showed off a host of new games launching with the console, like Panzer Dragoon, a game that would launch a series and would even get a remake 25 years later in 2020. Sega showed off one of their commercials, one of the kinds that you would expect to only see in the 90s.
It's the sphincter.
And Sega even had the first, and it's available now, with the surprise announcement that the Sega Saturn is now available in stores.
We started our rollout of the Sega Saturn yesterday.
Months before their original release date. Then they dropped the price and the new tagline,
Sega Saturn is not only here now, it's out there.
For Sony's presentation, it might surprise you that while Keanu Reeves made a more than memorable appearance at E3 2019, he made his actual first appearance as a key visual in Sony's opening sizzle in 1995. And this very 90s sizzle was pretty important because up until that point, Sony was still widely known as a tech company and hadn't released the PlayStation yet, at least not in the US. We were seeing the birth of a major gaming publisher and system through cheeky slides and clip art. But then came one of the most memorable moments in E3 history. After Sega had earlier announced the Sega Saturn's price of $399, the Sony Computer Entertainment president came up to the stage and simply said,
$299.
299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299. 299 People reference this moment as the price heard round the world. 3DO also had a press conference showing their successful 1994, how the 3DO console compares to the competition systems, and they even combated the age-old debate of PC versus console.
You don't need a dedicated system. A PC can do everything. That's a little bit like telling a family that they only really need one car.
They also showed quite a few next-gen visual demos of what their planned upcoming console, the M2, could potentially do. Nintendo spent almost their entire presentation directly discussing forgery systems and piracy that was plaguing the industry at the time. But what they lacked in any formal announcements, they made up for at their giant dome with big letters spelling out Nintendo. This is where you'll find a stage performance for Killer Instinct, as well as a place where you can get an orchid tattoo. Also, there was an early peek at the Ultra 64, which would officially be named the Nintendo 64 a few months later. Nintendo also had Earthbound, which was the origin of NES, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, and Nintendo's VR headset, the Virtual Boy. Also on display close by was the X-Band, seemingly the first online gaming attachment for a console. So that's the first E3. A look at what was, what could have been, and what came to be.
E3.
At the first E3 in 1995, we wound up showing off an early version of the very first Unreal game. A lot of people who know and use the Unreal Engine don't necessarily know that there's a game that actually launched everything behind all of it. And I remember being there with Mark Rain, and he yells out, Miyamoto's checking out Unreal. Shigeru Miyamoto, my hero, like my idol, who's made so many games that have just fascinated me throughout my entire life from my childhood. And I remember going over there and shaking and giving him a demo of the game and trying to show him why this game is unique, you know, with weapons that can charge up and players that can dodge and alternate fires and enemy AI that can track you down no matter where you were. And he was very stoic, you know, but I hope that I impressed him. And yeah, I was still shaking for like an hour after that.
First E3,
Wow.
1995. $2.99, what a moment. You know what I mean? Killed the Saturn in its tracks. And so that's where I want to start. 1995, mid-90s, we're talking about video game consoles.
Yeah.
Golden Boy, we'll start with you. Were you a Sega kid or a Nintendo kid?
Oh yeah, I was a Sega kid. I was a Sega kid, dude. Sega kid, baby. Sorry. So here's the thing. My mother bought a Super Nintendo for my brother.
Sure.
But she was like, well, I can't have them sharing it because we're just going to argue and fight the whole time. Yeah. So then, you know, she ended up telling my father, hey, you got to go get him a Sega Genesis. She took the credit for it, by the way. Boss mom. Shout out to you, Ma. And yeah, and then, you know, I had the Sega Genesis. But the only game I had for like the longest time was Sonic Pinball or Spinball.
Spinball.
So and that was like one of my favorite Sonic games.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I was a Sega Master System kid. Ooh. I was walking through the store, saw the Ghostbusters game, said I want that, and my mom did no research, and she got me what I wanted. Yeah. But then I was a Sega kid, ride or die the rest of the way through the Saturn. I bought a Saturn.
I had a Saturn too. Clockwork Knight, by the way, one of the most underrated platformer games ever. Clockwork Knight, so good.
Jackie, I feel like I don't need to ask.
You want to know what's funny? So actually, the first console we ever got was a Super Nintendo, and it is one of the most vivid memories of my life, actually. I remember my dad came in with a box, and my brother and I were chasing after him. We're like, what is this? What is this? And it was this little TV like this big, and he was trying to get it all plugged in. My brother and I were sitting in front of this like gray screen, you know?
Yeah.
And then Super Mario World popped up, and my brother and I looked at each other, and we just screamed, you know?
Oh, wow.
And little did they know that they were going to start a full-blown video game obsession after that. But I messed with Sega, okay? I would go to my neighbors, and we would play NBA Jam. We'd be like, he's on fire! Oh my gosh, I loved it. And actually, my brother and I got a Dreamcast as well, but we were mainly a Nintendo family.
Well, yeah, the only reason I said I think I know is because you have an SNES game in front of you.
Actually, I did bring Chrono Trigger. I thought we were going to be talking about our favorite games from the 90s, and obviously, like, this one, it's near and dear to my heart. My brother and I played it repeatedly.
Sure.
And Robo's theme was my ringtone for probably 10 years, and then I got an iPhone, and I was like, wait, you can't make a ringtone for these, or can you? And I just haven't figured that out. But anyway, yeah, this story just always resonated with me so much. I was a weirdo. I played like Secret of Mana and Terra Enigma and Illusion of Gaia, but those were like heavy dark stories for 7 and 8-year-olds to be taken in. So my brother and I are like, you know, we went into the Incan ruins and we found this corpse, and it was like, please tell my family that I shouldn't have gone out searching for treasure, and I abandoned them. And my brother and I are like crying, you know. But I do think that these games made me the person that I am today, and made my brother the person that he was. I'm sorry, I don't want to get emotional, but I think we can all say that games have had a profound effect on our life. And 100%. These games from the 90s, don't sleep on them, people. Don't sleep on them. They got really, really amazing content. So, of course, I know. I'm like,
I don't think I've ever.
Yeah, do you want to put on white gloves before you handle it?
I feel like I should. I mean, like, I've never actually held a Chrono Trigger box.
I know.
I saw one in Tokyo in Akihabara. I walked around for a little bit and I saw one there, and I asked the guy if I could grab it. He looked at me, said I was crazy, and then I left being, you know, in tears. But this is like a piece of history. Yeah. This is super cool.
Greg, you can hold it too. I mean, I know this.
I know this is. You're setting me up for like when that guy shows the Woodstock ticket and tears it in half. I'm not touching that. I'm not ending up on live stream fails.
Oh my god, I love it. But I feel like you can just feel the energy.
La gente está
And it was one of the greatest RPGs.
I know, seriously.
To this day, is still one of the greatest RPGs. Like top 5, I think.
Oh, easily in the top 5. What's in your top 5, y'all?
I want to say real quick that, and this is a reformed Sega kid speaking, that like video games made me who I am today. Obviously, it's my entire life, my entire career, my entire passion.
Yeah.
But like, I always look so longingly at people who were Nintendo kids. Because you have, like, because I feel like I feel like you guys had a different education, and that's not to say Sega didn't, but like I was a dumb kid. No one else liked video games as much as I did, so I was like just playing licensed stuff all the time, which got me like Castle of Illusion, Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion, which was great. But it was also like the Jurassic Park game and all these other Independence Day
Streets of Rage, baby.
Dude, I love Streets of Rage. Me and Mike Boylan, I remember that on Genesis sitting there. I remember having the blood in Mortal Kombat, being super stoked.
Battletoads versus Double Dragon, Sega Genesis. That game was freaking impossible. But oh man, and Lion King, by the way. Big shout out to my buddy Sancho West, who just finished Lion King recently on stream.
Sancho West is my buddy.
Oh, okay. Well, he's actually my friend, but
he's like.
This is what happens when I can't sit between them.
Darn it, Sancho! I believed in you.
I won. It's all me. I won. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, what are your favorite 90s games? Let us know with the hashtag E3 2021 so we can get you up on screen. But still to come here on the E3 stage, we've got our indie showcase, Capcom, and so much more. Party's just getting started, so don't go anywhere.
Ya está, por fin. Are you ready? Witness the verdict of a new game. What the fuck? Games industries. The games industry needs. Find your games industries job at. Oh. Muy bien.
篝火营地是中国领先的游戏媒体，创立于2018年，致力于为全世界的中文游戏玩家提供专业、精准、迅速的资讯情报。篝火营地立足于中国，与多家国际一流游戏媒体同行达成正式内容合作关系，源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，篝火营地在全网的内容浏览量已经超过5亿，服务了数百万的读者和玩家。我们的愿景是做游戏文化传播者。您可以在全球各大手机应用市场下载篝火营地 APP， 或者访问3w.gamebonfire.com 来加入游戏传播者的行列。
Ya, está bueno ya.
As
As a part of Play For All, GameSpot will be bringing you the latest gaming news and announcements, interviews with developers, the biggest press conferences, and lots more. Play For All is our yearly online event that combines the excitement and announcements of E3 with charity live streams the following week with lots of special guests who are going to help us raise money for able gamers. So join us in June for E3 and Play For All on GameSpot.com, YouTube.com/GameSpot, Twitch.tv/GameSpot, and as a part of E3's official broadcast. See you then.
I remember this one time I was at E3 on sitting there for lunch, and we were just sitting there eating, and then we got talking. We talked business, then we started talking games. I remember talking about Assassin's Creed, and I was saying how I snuck in the room, I climbed on the wall, then I jumped down, I took the knife, and I stabbed the person in the back. I looked over to my left, and I saw these people talk. They were talking, then they stopped listening, like, oh my God, what is he talking about? He's just talking about killing somebody? I said, it's a video game. They're like, oh, okay. Oh man, these people thought I killed somebody. They thought I was a hitman. I was like, oh, this is too funny.
Thanks to our sponsors at DoorDash. Get more from your neighborhood, from restaurants and convenience to grocery and corner stores.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we are back here at E3 2021. And, here's the truth, guys. Sometimes the most difficult discussions, are the ones that you need to have the most. And with the gaming community already being such a diverse place, it's time for the creative space to reflect that. So here's take 2 with an important discussion on the necessity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the corporate responsibility to honor those things.
Vamos. E3 exclusive. Take 2. Vamos.
Hello, I'm Alan Lewis, Vice President of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for Take-Two Interactive. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to Virtual E3 2021. Take-Two, like many organizations, is deeply committed to and actively involved in numerous initiatives to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion within our society and industry. Affecting meaningful, sustainable change is a continuous process, and there is no one solution that can achieve that goal. We believe that to enact change, especially for those in underserved and underrepresented communities, there needs to be a continuum of activism and engagement with educational programs serving as its core foundation. Beginning with children in elementary school, we have the ability to light a spark of creativity, intellectual curiosity, and wonder that can last a lifetime. Continuing through middle and high school, we can support and nurture students during their formative years and increase the depth of their skills that can provide a pathway to attending one of the 400 plus colleges and universities within the United States that offer degrees in game design. Providing opportunities to attend these academic institutions, including need-based financial support, is also a critical component to helping end generational cycles of inequality. And while pursuing their creative and technical degrees, students can learn firsthand from industry leaders that share their experience, acumen, and passion through one-on-one mentoring and internships at our organization. Together, if our industry can execute this continuum, we will have invested meaningfully in the lives of the youth from these communities for more than a decade before they begin their professional journey. Diversity and inclusion make us a better industry for today, and most importantly, for tomorrow. It allows us to make better entertainment experiences that are authentic, culturally relevant, and reflective of the audiences that enjoy them. Today, we have brought together a few of our important partners who will share their organization's mission and role in this endeavor, as well as their insights on how we as an industry can continue to take these important steps together for the future. We hope that you find their work as inspiring as we do. It is now my pleasure to turn things over to my colleague, Tony Lagans, Director of Diversity and Inclusion for 2K, who will be the moderator for today's discussion.
Thanks, Alan. It's my pleasure to be your moderator for today's session. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce my esteemed panelists today. We're going to start off with Jim Huntley. Jim Huntley is currently the professor and head of marketing at USC. Jim is a faculty advisor, and he's an executive producer for USC Games Expo and a co-founding partner of PacU Gaming. Next, we have Susanna Pollock. Susanna is the president of Games for Change, which is a nonprofit that empowers game creators and social innovators to drive real-world impact through games and immersive media. Next to Susanna, we have Gordon Bellamy. Gordon is a professor of practice of cinematographic arts at USC. He is also the head of USC Bridge Incubator, which is a program that helps to cultivate the next generation of leaders in the video game industry. And last, next to Gordon, we have Layla Shabir. Layla is the founder of Girls Make Games, which offers a series of summer camps, workshops, and game jams designed to inspire the next generation of designers, creators, and engineers. Welcome to all of you, great panelists, and thank you so much for joining our important discussion today. Now, I'd like to dive right in here, and Jim, I'm gonna start with you. In Alan's opening, he mentioned something that was so important, and it was really just talking about the increasing role that diversity, equity, and inclusion it is playing in the video game industry today. So before we get into the big concepts that we're talking about here, let's just break some things down for our viewers. Jim, can you help us understand and talk about equity and diversity and why it's so important in the conversation about the video game industry today?
Absolutely. Equity and diversity has been a challenge for the gaming industry since its inception. It hasn't really changed very, very much over time. But I think the biggest change that people are seeing in the last 2 to 3 years are the lack of it in the modern era and the rationale that there's no excuse behind not having better equity and diversity in the industry from here on out. So what I like about working with companies like Take-Two and some other companies that have reached out to me about an initiative we started to call the Gerald A. Lawson Endowment Fund is that companies are now looking to invest in getting more diversity in their ranks and getting more stories told from different points of view.
I appreciate that. That's great conversation there. So let's talk about just kind of the inequities and why is it so important to have these conversations, talk about that whole aspect and just getting people in the right mindset to understand what's available for them as majors in this industry. Jim, just talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So a lot of what we've been focusing on from a USC Games perspective is making sure that students of color, Black and Indigenous students in particular, because they have the least amount of representation within our industry out of all the various demographic groups. We've been focusing on scholarships, but the challenge that we have, and I think the challenge that society and the industry has, is it starts earlier than that. There's a phrase from, I can't remember who to attribute to, but there's a phrase that he used that I remember saying, the inequities of our past pay dividends into the future. And that sticks with me because the reality is if you don't have a great opportunity or access to computer science labs and specialized education in grade school and high school and junior high school, the odds of you having a great portfolio piece when it comes time to apply to a program like ours puts you at a deficit. And if that deficit keeps rolling on into the future, generation after generation, the gap between the ability to get into some of these slots in game design and not being able to get them gets wider and wider. So we need to do a better job as a society, and we are willing to do our part and help work with companies like Take-Two to lead the vanguard on how do we get students some opportunity from grade school. Like, how do we make sure they can see this as an option? Because when I, as a Black man, get in front of a small group of grade school students and I say I work in the video game industry, you can see the eyes just their minds explode because they've never seen anyone like me and the videos they see on YouTube or other visitors to their classes, to their seminars. So it's important to show that we have a presence here. It's also important to make sure that the students who look like us, who are 20 years, 30 years, 40 years behind us, also have the opportunities that we didn't in some cases to get a job in this industry.
Yes, thank you so much for your insight. So important there. Susanna, that really kind of speaks to a lot of the great work that you're doing in helping to reach this underserved community. Can you talk about the work that Games for Change is doing?
Sure. So, our mission, as you said earlier, is to empower game designers and social innovators, right? To use games for social change. And we see our work with younger people as really inspiring the next generation, right? And so just what Jim was saying, like we're going as young as 6th grade, sometimes 5th grade, but trying to give young people, and mostly in Title I schools, so those are schools that qualify for free lunches, which often are representing the underserved communities, an opportunity to dive in deeply into this gaming industry, this experience they all love to do, and help them become creators of this content, not just consumers. And we've been finding that the program that we've been running called the Games for Change Student Challenge, we've been running it for the past 6 years. We've reached over 30,000 young people in middle and high school. And we not only give them an opportunity to learn how to make games, but we also combine that with civic engagement. So they have to think about how games can help make their communities better. So right from the start, we want to empower them to think about this really important medium, not only as something they love to do, but they actually can make. They're learning important 21st century and STEM skills that can help them regardless of what career path. But what we really hope to see happen is that they see a future for themselves and they see an opportunity, a pathway for them. And part of our program, an important part of it is this idea of mentoring and mentoring from near peers and also from people from the community. So as Jim said, it's so important they see themselves in the people that are coming to speak to them. So when we're in Los Angeles, for example, we can reach out to USC Games for game design students to come and speak to the kids, that we can bring people in from Riot or Activision or from Take-Two to come in and say, yes, this is what I do and this is something for you. And we do the same thing in New York and working in Atlanta and Detroit. And I can tell you that students are coming back year on year and we're seeing them use this program as like their college essay, or they're building their portfolio. And I love the idea that, if we can get to them at a young age, they spend their summers with Layla at Girls Make Games, and then they can go on and apply to college, and we were talking about this pipeline or this pathway for them. And so that's that role and what we hope to inspire.
I love what you said there, Suzanne. There's so many little nuggets that you just pulled out there.
Mira, la gente
the different avenues you can
ponen
have
emotes
and pathways there are in the
quedando
gaming industry.
dormidos porque está muy
Just the
ZZ.
activity that you can have in terms of having mentorship and role models and representation, and just
Está muy
having
ZZ,
good gamers
ZZ,
out
ZZ.
there. So there's so many things that you talked
Ya,
about that I want to hit
cállate,
on.
ya,
Let's just pull
cállate,
Layla into this
muestren
conversation.
algo que
Just
nos
talk about
interese, por favor.
the idea of
Muestren
mentorship
algo que
and
nos interese, por
representation.
favor.
Layla, talk about the workshops and the summer programs that you offer to girls. How does that help to increase the representation and the mentorship aspects that we've talked about?
¿En serio piensan que a
Thanks so
nosotros
much
nos
for
interesa
having me. I was
esto?
on mute. This is
¿En serio piensan que nos
2020.
interesa
Still
esto?
going on mute. But like Susanna said, I think it's really important to kind of pass that baton on. And I think we see this summer after summer having created a place that's, for girls. We get this question a lot. Why do you need a space that's just for girls? There's so many programs out there that are open to everyone. But I think it's just so important to create that space because, like Jim talked about, it's so important to see people who are like yourselves. For many of the girls that come to camp, this is their first time walking into a room full of girls who love video games. They've been so accustomed to kind of being the only girl on their robotics team, or the only girl that went to a coding camp with their brother, and the girl who's fighting her brothers for the Xbox controller. So those are very common themes and stories, and I think it's important to kind of tie in not just the mentorship but also the community. It's very important to walk into a room and feel like you're not an outsider, and the best way to do that is to show many more faces that look just like you. It's really validating to walk away, not just with the technical skills, but to feel like these are people that I'm gonna, kind of encounter in 10, 15 years and we'll be like professionals, because right now we're just kids making games, but we'll be professionals in a few years. And 7 years out for Girls Make Games, we're finally starting to see, these girls kind of make plans together to go to college, and this year, I would say, like the first time we got in, like, dozens of emails from families saying, my daughter is now thinking of college, and how do we get this portfolio going? How do we set that up? So I think touching on Jim's point too, there's so many challenges that, people have to go through just to get everything right, you shouldn't have to rely on luck so much. So if you look at the women who are now excelling and thriving in the industry and you ask them their stories, so many things had to go right in their lives to finally end up in the industry. Many of whom ended up there accidentally, like me and even Tony. I think Tony and I touched on that earlier. But it shouldn't have to be luck or accident. We can actually intentionally create these pipelines. And I think it requires all of us working together, like everyone in this room, talking about what we're doing and how do we pass our students on from, we start as young as 8, getting them onto the programs and then passing them on to the student challenge and then on to USC and then finally on to the industry. I think that's basically the magic formula to solving the problem that we're talking about today.
Yes, thank you for hitting on that pipeline challenge and actually solution. You really clearly laid it out there for us. I really, really enjoy that. And something else you mentioned is just like really opening this world of gaming to new, diverse, a pool and a spectrum of gamers. And how do we create those real pathways back into the gaming industry? Gordon, you've done a lot of work in just helping to create value where value was not seen in places in the gaming industry, specifically for the gay gaming professionals. Can you talk about how the representation and widening the spectrum of what gaming professional looks like and how your company and your role really accomplishes that?
Sure. So we have a mission which is focused on education, employment, expertise, and entrepreneurship. And the reason why is because alongside diversity and equity inclusion, there's a new word that's come up a lot, which is belonging, right? A feeling of belonging, of being default. And I know that people in their uniqueness do a lot of mental, socioeconomic, and sometimes social gymnastics before they get to be as good as they are, before they get a chance to participate in this panel or participate in our industry by and large. And I think the work that we all share is trying to disrupt some of those mental gymnastics, socioeconomic gymnastics, social gymnastics that young women, people of color, indigenous people, neurodiverse people need to do in order to be as great as they are, to belong, in the space. And sort of hearing, what Layla's speaking to of a cohort, right, that treats each other as default, and where are we going to go now together, collectively? The program, Jim's putting in place, right, with the endowment honoring Lawson, where there's going to be cohorts of Black and indigenous people, right, growing together. And the work that Susanna, you've been doing since before it was cool, okay? You were changing games, making that dollar out of 15 cents to before all of us. All of that work, and with the support of corporations like Take-Two, right, is enabling us to move a generation forward. Specifically with GGP, we have a scholars program in partnership with Take-Two. Some go to USC, many go on to participate in Games for Change, and many have been girls who made games. And that's where we find ourselves intersecting, is at that college point of how do we take them towards professionalization? And then we hope to carry them through into employment, into being experts, right? Because that's the real challenge when you're trying to discover people. You don't want just to be entering. You want experts, right? And if things are gonna really change, like this discussion, you need owners, right? Layla, owner. Susanna, owner. Jim, owner. All of you, owners of facets of your business, right? That is where we become the batter, not the frosting, right? Where the change is, more than we can count, 2%, 3%, 1%. We aren't even the ones counting, right? We're still being counted, right? Until you're doing the counting, nothing has changed, right? I don't need to ask how many young ladies are in Girls Make Games. Like, all of them, right? What is the gender balance in Games for Change? All of it, right? These sort of systemic changes, like that is the work I think we all share. I think it's why we all made time today, right? I've been to every E3. I was a booth boy when I started, and I'm still here, right? 25, 26 years later, haven't missed one yet. So I hope that someone out there sees this and begins their path, right? And this is additive, that's why we're all here.
I appreciate that. Yes, exactly what you're saying. There's so much more that all of us can be doing. The accountability piece is really very important, Gordon. Thank you for bringing that up. I just want to lay this out there to all our panelists. What can corporations do to really set themselves up for success in the near future and grabbing this new talent? This talent out there that we need to capture to help us build better, more relevant, engaging video games. What can corporations do?
So I was thinking about this in particular as Gordon was talking about the scholarships that he puts forward. So having organizations, companies like Take-Two have to be visible to young people, not just because they're buying, they're downloading the games off of Xbox or PlayStation, but because they're there in front from the beginning. And so Take-Two has been part of our challenge since the beginning, offering scholarships to our grand prize winners. And I can tell you that that's a motivator for kids to participate, not just because there's a scholarship at the end, but it's because Take-Two is part of it. Like, it made us cool. Right, and I think it's that relationship at that young of an age that makes a connection for people. Is like, yeah, they want to hear what I have to say, right? Like, they're here because this program exists and because I'm interested in doing it. And I think that kind of relationship with these kids, whether they're mentoring and coming into a classroom, they're volunteering at a game jam or judging games at the end of the competition, they're involved. And I think that it really has an impact on young kids' lives.
Yes, I love that.
I just want to add to what Suzanne's saying. I think that, and something that, we're talking about Take-Two, and thank you for having us, is making the success of Black people, of women, of queer people, of indigenous people, neurodiverse people, a business goal. Plain and simple. The same way that the consumption, right, of content, right, get some downloadable skins, buy some NBA 2K, right, that's a business goal around which the business is aligned. And I feel as though if the expertise of women, Black people, neurodiverse, other populations was a business goal, then that would be the change. It'd be that simple. Like, oh, our business is more successful if there is more of this, right? And that's about people being of value versus just being valuable, which are two different things. There's lots of exceptional people, right, who are of value in spite of their circumstances. They're valuable, right? There's a difference between saying you're of value and that's a business goal.
Estoy harto de este cabrón.
And I think that's the real change, because it used to be, just real talk, it used to be about exceptionalism, right? And be like, oh, you're able to thrive under this duress, right? Isn't that cool? Versus, right, you are actually who we are, so we are going to cultivate you. That's who we are year round. That's what we look like, what we sound like, right? Who we are, right? And so as the lever moves more towards that, right? The same way, like, I have biases. I attended Harvard College, so I'm of value, right? There's value in that, right? I'm treated that way in some circles. If the same lens was put onto women, onto brown people, Black people, queer people, then there'd be no, as the kids say, no cap on the change that could take place.
Right. And that just speaks to being deliberate with our diversity, inclusion, equity practices. Corporations really have to take that accountability and, like you said, do what's right in that spectrum, in that conversation, looking at value from different sources and kind of recalibrating our minds to that. But like you guys have said, it takes time. It takes starting earlier in the pipeline. I love that you just call that out. What other things can corporations do that are just different different than what we've been doing in the past, perhaps? What would you recommend?
I would even add to what Gordon just said. The looking at this challenge as a business challenge is key. That's what between the inspiration of the social justice marches from last summer and really talking to our chair, Danny Bilson, who said that, hey, if you were going to tackle this issue, this giant generational issue as a business problem, what would you do? And that flipped the light switch on for me. Like, well, of course, like any business problem, what are my challenges? I've got gaps in my supply chain, if you will. So how do I fill those gaps in my supply chain? And really working your way backwards in a way where you're putting objectives, strategies, and tactics in place to achieve those goals from a business perspective. You're going to see outcome when it's not just, hey, here's a check and good luck with charity X. It's going to be more of, okay, here's a check. This is what we're hoping to see. Let's measure along the way and see if we're seeing progress on that. And it's the measurement of progress and adjusting in real time based on the data that you're getting back. That's where you're going to that's where you're going to see the gap start to close in a meaningful way and be able to point out to other people in the industry, like, hey, this is what we can all do together. What if we scale this effort up and really had an impact on society as a whole? That mindset is really going to be what changes the game.
So I like to think about it as like a pie. You know, when we think about from a corporate strategy, we always think about there's a piece of the pie and everyone gets a little piece of the pie. But I think the way we have to approach this is really, the pie is not a fixed size. I think by including more people, the pie gets bigger. So it's not a fixed size that we're trying to all get a piece of, but by including more people, you know, in the industry, by becoming creators of this medium, we actually expand the medium and expand it beyond just entertainment. And I think that speaks really heavily to me as a problem solver. Is like when I look at video games, it's such an underutilized tool for social change. And I think like that, I can see Susanna kind of has been on the forefront of that. And coming in as an outsider to the games industry, I was just kind of blown away that, oh my God, you can do so much. Like 9 out of 10 kids play video games. You know, not 9 out of 10 boys, 9 out of 10 kids. We're talking about literally changing perceptions and inspiring and educating generation after generation. And yet that power rests in the hand of like a select few. And I think when you think about it, not just from a corporate responsibility, but as a social responsibility, like what are we putting out there for our kids to consume? I think we need to bring in pretty much everyone, anyone and everyone who's interested in building a future together in that. So between the pie and the corporate responsibility, I feel like there's a lot that gets lost. Like I think there's a big dichotomy between these are people that are doing good and these are people that are self-serving, but it doesn't work like that. We have to work together, and everyone does kind of go between what's good for me and what's good for everyone, you know, so.
Thank you for bringing that concept up, Layla. The codependency. We are all community members in this pipeline, and we have to be active, deliberate in our processes, in our systems, how we tackle this problem. Before we end this conversation, there's tons of questions that we have that we want to ask you. So I'm going to pause right now and give our esteemed questionnaires a chance to ask their questions that are top of mind related to our conversation today. So we're going to start it off with some questions from our other video game industry experts here. We've got Carrie, she's an executive producer from Private Division. We also have Vanetta, who's a director of talent acquisition with Take-Two, and Nir, he's the head of mobile for Take-Two. So go ahead and fire it away.
Awesome, thank you, Tony. First question is for Layla, but certainly open to having the rest of our panelists answer the question. But at the beginning of your career, did you ever imagine being a leader within an industry that is predominantly male-dominated? And what is your advice for other young women that are interested in taking a similar path to where you are today?
Thank you, Juanetta. I don't think I really envisioned being in a male-dominated industry, although I did envision being in a male-dominated world, because I grew up in the Middle East and I was painfully aware of being a girl, and how my life was going to turn out to be different from my male peers or my brothers or my cousins or any of that. I was fortunate that my parents were very supportive and they wanted me to pursue whatever dream I wanted. But I think having that mindset and coming from a world that was very much male dominated already prepared me for, you know, hey, whatever I end up doing, there's going to be more boys or men than me. I think the piece of advice that I would really give girls is to honestly not think about your gender when you think about what you want to pursue, because it's all about you specifically. You might end up liking things that people, even your age, your geographic location, your, you know, educational background, or your family might not have heard of or even thought of. And that is all the things that I ended up doing were things that didn't match anything that I had seen in my own environment, but I just kind of pursued what I wanted to. And then two is to kind of use a very selective hearing. I think you have to kind of develop selective hearing. Listen to the people that care about you, that love you, and encourage you in being more of who you are, and diminish the voices of people who say you can't do things because it's never been done, or that's not how it is, or that's not how the world works. The way the world works is based on the world that we build, and we're continually building a new world. So it doesn't matter how things are done now, they're going to be done a different way as you grow up, and you can be part of building that world. So those would be like my two pieces of advice for girls, is to just pursue what you want and, you know, develop selective hearing.
All right. My question is for Susanna, but also open to anyone else who would like to answer. And I think Gordon kind of hit it earlier when he said that, you know, most of us didn't have a lot of examples or opportunities. I'm in that boat. I didn't have any programs and anyone telling me that I could do this, and definitely had to, not necessarily an accident, but really had to work in a different way, harder than most. So, my question, Susanna, for you is, could you share an example of how your program has impacted someone that has participated, or, you know, a few people?
Sure. So as I said, our program is 6 years old in New York City. We're a bit younger in the other cities that we're operating in, and there are opportunities now that kids all over the country can participate. But we saw in New York a very particularly strong cohort. We are actually in over 125 schools right now in New York City, and there are some rock star teachers that have encouraged their kids to participate, their participants, year on year on year. And that, to me, is certainly the beginning of getting this kind of program off the ground, and particularly in schools where students usually aren't offered this kind of experience. So one, having the teachers find value and really and work to and making it a part of an annual program within their school system has also allowed students to continue with the program year on year. There's one young woman in particular who won, I think she won the, like our theme category the first time round when she participated as a sophomore. The junior year, she won again. And by the senior year, she was a grand prize winner in New York City. And I hear that she then followed on with a full scholarship to NYU Game Center, right? And it was just amazing. And I just remember she was invited to speak at the Games for Change Festival after she won. It must have been the second year. I don't think it was the third year. And she came, and we were having a panel, a conversation about, you know, the program, and she was invited to speak on it, and her father came with her and followed her around the entire, like, 2 days she was there with a camera recording her experience in this, you know, professional environment, not only when she was speaking, but when she was sitting and watching the other people on stage. And it was so awesome to see that kind of support within her family. And I'm like, all right, you've got educators supporting this young woman, this pathway. She's got her family, and actually, since she graduated, I've seen other kids in her family come through the program. But it takes that kind of multiple supports from different directions to really support this young woman who is a woman of color from Brooklyn, who found her path, right? And she got the right supports, and she got there. And now I also understand that she's launched her own studio and is raising money, you know, on Kickstarter. She's remarkable.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story. That's so cool.
Nir, do you have a question for our panelists?
Yeah, hi, I do. So my question is to Gordon. I'm looking at LGBTQ representation in gaming. I've been in gaming for more than 12 years, and it feels to me that representation is a bit low than what you would expect, what I see in tech in other sectors. Do you have some data or some thoughts about that? Is that a fair estimation? And if so, why is that? And what are the main challenges that LGBTQ individuals face in this industry?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you a little history here. So when we started GGP about 15 years ago, which is not that long ago in corporate times, queer people only existed on an anonymous mailing list, anonymous to each other. Okay, because employment safety, which is still a concern globally, not to mention just safety, was a #1 concern which all of us lived with. So, even back then, weird flex, but I had designed Madden Football, had already sold a company to Activision, employment safety. So that is the #1 reason why. And just in this new recent history, have we begun to build the trust and value in each other so as to aggregate and to even acknowledge each other, okay? And to build systemic ties to companies like Take-Two and others to move from hiding from the industry, right? Escaping from the industry, to affinity, right? Right? To employee resource groups and corporate leaders like Tony existing, right? And we're moving closer to being a business resource. And so in other technology areas, that path is further along, where it is like to say in the batter that the queer identity is of value, and there's customers, there's of course creators, there's of course business leaders and owners, of all walks, and in the optimum business, you would cultivate, all types of people. As a game craft, we are still in generation 1. You even asking this question here, you are a wild pioneer. You are the out there with your machete chopping down bamboo to even ask this question, which presumes that LGBT people would be employed, okay, and then in communication with each other, right? In communication with each other across different companies, and in any sort of ongoing concern. So, welcome. Thank you for asking. For those of you at home, we have a Discord and a Facebook that you can all join and participate at any time, or you can reach out to me directly on Twitter, Gordon Bellamy. Wherever you may be on or off your path as an LGBTQIA person or an ally, right? Because I think that's something we've all discovered, and I think whatever population you are part of, whether it be across gender or race or expression identity, is that you don't have to be a member to care, okay? You don't gotta be a member to say this is an important issue. And in fact, a lot of the work that we do at a corporate level is saying, hey, you don't have to do all the work, right? You know how to push the rock that's sitting on you. We're gonna help you push that rock that's on you. It's not on me, but I can help push, right? Because I can see it. It's on you. And so asking these questions, corporate support, time, right? 3 T's, time, talent, and treasure, will move this discussion forward. I hope that answered your question there, but otherwise just get at me. I can, tell you more. And anyone else there who's watching, we can tell you more in greater detail.
Gordon, I know your company has some things going on in the few months.
Oh,
can you
sure.
Talk about some of the activities you guys have.
Sure. So we have most of our content now, in addition to our Scholars Program and our community service that we do with Take-Two, is streaming. So we stream front page of Twitch and we bring it to YouTube, content around equity, inclusion, belonging. And not just LGBT, we just had our second Indigenous Game Creators panel yesterday. Big hit, because you know what? Indigenous creation has always been here. In August, we're going to be doing our first GGP honors, which is going to be honoring the best in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in our craft. So we're going to be lifting up the people who do the work, right? Every day in our ERGs, in our executive suites, like Dr. Liggins, right? These people need to be cultivated as well, right? The same way that we cultivate engineers, artists, and other things that we value, right? Things that we value need to be cultivated. So we're going to be getting to do that work August. Tune in, front page of Twitch. It's going to be a mood. Hope you're all there.
Awesome. Thank you. We probably have time for one more question, so let's go for it. Who's got their last burning question for our panelists?
Oh, I have several questions.
Burn.
If
Burn.
It's one, we'll just speak. I have to come from the affinity group, ERG, BRG perspective. So Gordon, thank you for touching on that. So this question is for both Jim and Gordon, as someone that, you know, represents a member of an ERG as well as a leader of an ERG. What advice would you give ERGs, affinity groups, BRGs that are either just starting out or those that are established in organizations that are looking for ways to further embed themselves into the business, so that batter versus the icing that you're talking about?
Also, I mean, to add to that, I think the something that a few of us have touched on earlier is an old adage from the business world: you can't manage what you can't measure. If you don't have a way to see how your progress is evolving over a continuum, you're kind of just going, well, I think something's working, let's just keep doing that. And business people, myself being one of them, don't respond well to that. It's just okay, let's just keep investing in a thing that I don't know the results of. You need to be able to go back and say, hey, this year we were here, this following year we were here, here's the, you know, not only have we seen a positive impact on the investment or good ROI, but we also recognize the fact that the partner and partners that we're working with are making moves and making investments into the future that they're saying that they want to see. The positive feedback loop of being able to say, here's data that shows that what we're doing is having an impact on our objectives, and rewarding that partner or those partners for that investment and for that support. That's really key to building a positive feedback loop around investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, what Jim said, but I'd still say make it mobile. God, if you could move that needle like 0.2%, anything, you can't get cut. You can't get cut then, right? There's no way, no, because they budget's tight when you're moving that needle 0.2%, right?
No, the scale at which we all operate, it's pretty staggering when you think about it. When you aggregate how much revenue and profit goes and gross profit goes in the games business, for a meaningful moving of the needle of DEI, comparatively speaking, it's not a huge amount of money. It's, you know, to have a really big demonstrable impact, measurable impact, if we aggregate our dollars and really focus on some key objectives, we can really move the needle in a way that's going to, frankly, when you start seeing things work, people get excited. It worked, let's keep doing it, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why the Lawson Fund is what it is. It's an endowment because we want to see it have an impact in the aggregate over time, over generations, and support students for decades to come. Not just have it be this fiscal year, what can we do?
Awesome, thank you.
One more thing, just to let it go, is just keep saying Black out loud, right? Let's get back to Black is beautiful. We've been residing in Black Lives Matter for a long time, and we need to be back to like Black and proud and Black and beautiful. And so your existence, right? And saying it and saying positive outcomes after the word Black is meaningful each and every day that you can do it in your ERG.
I love that, thank you.
Good question. We've got time for more. What else do we have?
All right, I'll go if we have time for more. Layla, how have you been able to actually connect with the people in the community to bring awareness for your programs? Like, how do you actually gather people, to participate, and especially like in the very beginning?
Oh my gosh. So the first camp in 2014, we literally like barged into a maker fair with flyers, and we were just going around and being like, You look like you would love video games because you're playing with robots right now. So come to our camp. But I think it's pretty much primarily been word of mouth originally, but then when we ended up partnering with the game studios and game companies, that really helped elevate the program and the PR. I think Susanna touched on that. It's like it actually legitimized us and then kind of made us really cool. Like, hey, you can go make games at these game studios. You can actually make a game at Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Take-Two. You can go into their offices, meet the developers, and make these games. And I think that cool factor has kind of really helped us out. When it comes to speakers and people who want to mentor and be involved, that's been a lot easier because, a lot of our teachers end up being college students themselves, and they come back and they'll say things like, I wish this program existed when I was younger. It sucks I couldn't go to it, but at least I get to be a part of it and give back to the kids. And then same thing for mentors and speakers. There's so much interest in wanting to give back and wanting to welcome new voices into the industry. We haven't really had to do a lot of pushing. In fact, we get pulled in a lot of directions. I was talking to my team the other day. I was like, this is a very fortunate problem to have where we're getting pulled in 100 directions because we're needed in 100 directions, as opposed to us telling people that, hey, this is important, pay attention, and, look at what we're doing. So I would say it's been very organic, and really the tide is turning. We're building a new industry. We're building on the industry that we have, but we're also building a new part of the industry together. So it's really exciting.
Thank you. Thanks, Layla. And thank you to our panelists. You guys have been very inspirational, very thought-provoking, and have left us with a lot of great tidbits to take away, to take back to our corporations and our respective organizations to really make a deliberate impact in our community that we're building and this whole world of diversity and equity and inclusion in the video game industry. So thank you all. Thank you, the viewers, for joining, and have fun at the virtual E3 conference.
Ya, por fin se acabó esta mierda.
I think ever since Mega Man X, I've just loved the sort of 8-bit, 16-bit pixel art style. As an artist, I just kind of fell in love with that aesthetic.
Number one, Mega Man X, favorite game of all time. Whenever somebody asks me the deserted on an island question, Mega Man X is the game.
I would say Tomb Raider. Lara Croft is the reason why I started to become really adventurous in my own life and wanted to be as intelligent and curious and brave as her.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I feel like that was the first video game that I've ever played where I've seen so many black people in one game and felt like, oh my gosh, my people. You got the Isley Brothers playing on the radio? Like, oh yes, this is where I need to be.
Parappa the Rapper on PlayStation. Man, bring that back, PlayStation. Parappa got more bars than half the industry right now. So I recommend that you all go check it out because it's one of my favorites.
I think it might be Apex Legends. And I know, the thing you're most excited about is the thing that you've just done. But truly, I have been waiting my entire life to play a character like Valk. And it's changed my life.
My favorite game is, without question, absolutely League of Legends. It's been like a decade since release, and it's still just at the top of the charts, and it's where I go with all my friends and hang out. It's my go-to.
That was the first female I actually ever seen play video games. It's my mother, and she loved 007, and we would all play, me and my brother, my mother and my dad, and we would just go crazy in that game, have game nights and everything.
Lion King, Sega, on Sega, because that will teach you about life right quick. That was hard.
I've said it many times. TV should have his own segment. Every time he's on camera, I'm just cracking up. Love him. Anyway, welcome back to E3 2021. Do not forget to check out e3expo.com/shop for your E3 2021 needs.
Look like this. Don't you want to look like this, young man?
You want to look just like me?
You want to look like a schlub like me? I'm in a bomber jacket. Nobody likes me. Or do you want to be in an E3 bomber jacket and everybody likes him?
All the kids want to look just like me. Anyway,
Okay, anyway, we do need to give a big thank you to Razer. Do you see our lovely little Razer Blade laptops here? And then we're in the Razer Isker chair. Oh, sorry, you didn't get one.
I got the chair, though.
You did, and they're amazing. The lumbar support is on point, y'all. Greg, you and I, we're tall folks, so it's like you need that lumbar support. It makes us stand up straight.
And that's the thing is, if you're not a tall person, you don't understand how hard it is to be tall. And that's always embarrassing, right? Go, oh, right. Sorry.
Okay, be nice, gentlemen.
The pain I'm feeling right now. I don't have a laptop. Greg, make fun of me. You know what? I quit. I'm kidding.
No, you know what was low-key the best thing? Yesterday, they were like, Golden Boy, can you put your chair up higher? Can you put your chair up higher? And Greg and I were being so nice. We were not saying anything. We were just like, okay. Anyway, my producer's like, move it along, Jackie. So we did this great segment earlier where we were talking about 90s games and the impact that they had on us. And I kind of went off the rails and started talking about Chrono Trigger and Illusion of Gaia at length. But you both didn't really get a chance to talk about the games that have had a huge effect on you. So I wanted to hear both of y'all just be like, hey, this game changed my life. So you're in the hot seat first because you're right next to me. Hi.
Yay. The easy answer for me would have been Halo. I will just give a mention. It was the game that brought me and my brother together. We were always, bickering brothers, right? It's just how it is with siblings. But both of us sitting down playing that campaign, it was great. But for myself personally, one of the games that had a profound impact on me was, funny enough, Final Fantasy VII. It was the first RPG that I had ever played, and it began this infatuation with RPGs. And there was a point in time, folks, where the PlayStation, I swear to God, just had nothing but RPG games. I feel like every other month there was like a new RPG coming out, but that just started this long-lasting love for that genre. And then there was the first game that I played that literally was just, was Batman on the NES.
Wow. What a game.
Super fun game. That first level as a child, let me tell you, not easy. But yeah, those games have always been so big for me. What about for you, Greg?
Man, I think if you go back to the youth, there's so many things that put me on this path here, right? But I think for impactful games, the first thing that comes to mind is more modern. I think of Gone Home.
Oh,
if you haven't played Gone Home, of course, right? It's a walking simulator, and when Gone Home hit, I was told by everyone on the internet to go play it and read nothing about it, which means I will now spoil Gone Home for you. But I played that game like so many people did, thinking it was a horror game. And then slowly there's this side story building of, your sister and she's missing and what's going on with it, and you're reading the notes she's left. And slowly over time, it's like, oh my God, like she's falling in love. Oh my God, she's discovering she's gay. Oh my, and then it was like, wait a second. Is this game a horror game at all, or is it all about that relationship? And it was all about that relationship. And, no video game, no work of fiction, of course, can tell you exactly what it's like to be LGBTQ. But for me, as, a hetero white male where everything's great all the time, right? This was a window, at least, into it of what that discovery is like and the pressure of it and what you're going through. And it opened up a window of empathy that I've heard stories before, but to kind of experience it, in a video game way of being in there and reading these intimate thoughts on a level that I don't get in a passing conversation with somebody, it was so powerful that when that game ended, I felt like I had a brand new empathy for what, LGBTQ people have to go through, of course.
Yeah, wow. Definitely got to check that game out now.
Yeah, no, for real. I'm like, I am completely sold. I've heard great things about it as well, but I'm like, okay, everybody, Greg Miller says to play it, I'm playing it. Okay, so Golden Boy and I were up in the break room, and I was like, okay, I need you to break down for me, like, NFT, Bitcoin, the works. And he popped out this little diagram. He wouldn't allow me to bring it down here, folks. He's like,
very well done.
He's like, people are going to make fun of my stick figures.
Oh, is it like a 7th grade diorama where, like,
But what was so sweet about it was Golden Boy's like, you can keep it for you, Jackie. This will just be for you. And I was like, oh, he drew a stick figure of me, and it was like tall and lanky. And then he was like, this is me. And he's like, see, it's got a little belly. And he's like, and it's missing hair. And I was like, stop it, Golden Boy. But actually, this kind of brings us to our discussion about mythical games. That's why we even started talking about it.
Yeah, first, I do want to give a huge shout out to my boy Justin Kruger. I've known him for years, and he's over at Mythical, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they're going to bring to the table. But yeah, Mythical Games is a very interesting company because what they're doing is they're making games on the blockchain. And I know everyone's like, well, sure, NFTs, blockchain, crypto, there's always these conversations around it. But what's really interesting about games is like, what if you were able to play something like, a Hearthstone, and you had a particular card in Hearthstone. I think Dan used Ragnaros as an example, and you owned a version of that card. Like, you own that card. It was like 1 of 100 or 1 of 200 or whatever, right?
It'd be like Magic, right? It would be like what you're already doing.
What you're already doing right now.
Cards.
Exactly. And imagine you were able to do that. Now, this is obviously a fun game. You play with your friends, and it takes that same kind of concept of like ownership over what you have in your game, and then it just paints it with this fun-loving, you know, colorful flair.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it. Huge shout out to Mythical Games. I think they're pushing the boundaries a little bit here, and really it's only the beginning, because you're going to see more and more of this as the blockchain continues to improve.
Right, it's tip of the sword, right? I think
Indeed,
that's the thing.
indeed.
Yeah.
Well, fans of Blanco's Block Party are going to be happy to know that they can now own and sell their own characters. So for more on Blanco and an inside look at how the developers plan to change the way we look at video game characters, here is Mythical Games.
Let's go.
Yay.
Take 1, ABC, common mark.
In your own words, what is Blanco's Block Party?
Oh, man.
Blanco's Block Party is a lot of things.
The game or just a Blanco?
I'm looking at you. Perfect, awesome. So Blancos was originally what we thought a player-owned economy in a video game could be.
So it's a cool mixture of art, design, you know, music, entertainment.
This is like the evolution of modern art. Seeing how those artists use different mediums again, you know, it's not just about canvases.
50% of my work is digital, and there's been rarely an outlet for that digital aspect of things.
What the gaming industry has really become is a lot about microtransactions and getting as much money out of the player as possible. What we're doing at Mythical with NFTs and blockchain really changes that script.
By the end of this time next year, I'm going to have a whole row of Blancos. So.
Play, earn, collect, sell.
That's it. Sorry, I got lost. Can we start again?
I just had a quadruple espresso. Is that a problem? Hi, my name is John Linden. I'm the CEO of Mythical. So working with Rudy and Jamie have really been a lot of fun because we really have kind of merged 3 different industries into one. So we have kind of obviously deep experience in gaming, but we also have teams from blockchain and we have teams in marketplace technology. And bringing these 3 worlds together, it's been a challenge at times, but also it's really helped us explore how to make this work. And I think that's been the intersection of those 3 industries together has really made Mythical special. I hope the players within Blancos can really kind of be what they want to be. You know, it's kind of a safe place that people can come. It's a great, strong community. And meanwhile, they have this economy behind the scenes that they can earn. They can really transact and be part of the world themselves. And that's really what they need to know. It really has become a great community, and we really encourage people to be part of that community.
When you're building a game at the moment, if you want to move from 10,000 users to 10 million users, what you really need to do is have really, really epic gameplay.
Blancos is a game that's all about what we imagine vinyl toys do when we're not watching. What happens when we go to sleep and these toys are left to their own devices, and an exploration of that whole fun world of creativity that these toys escape to. Every single Blanco has a story and have their own inspiration and their own flavor and their own style. And I think that players are going to find that they'll go, oh, I like this toy because it speaks to me.
You are playing, building, and collecting. But then outside of that, you are also upgrading and selling. You don't need to understand NFTs or blockchain at all to play Blanco's Block Party. All you need to know is how to play a game, and we teach you that.
The Junction is an amazing place where the Blancos go to express their creativity. Players are going to have a role in helping to bring that world online.
It's just this city full of tons of different designs and colors and patterns. But the point is that you are meeting up with your friends, you're practicing your new skills out together, and then you're jumping into mini parties.
Yeah, okay.
Players can build their levels using our Blanco build tool. They can make whatever level they want. They can set the terrain, and then they could set the win conditions, and they could set the game type. So you can make this level into a shooter, or you can make this level into a race. There are things that we didn't even think was possible with our level editor that they have been able to do. I've seen levels that recreate a particular science fiction movie that I might not be able to say.
I wanted things that felt like beautiful pieces of art. We're just continually adding to this huge library of buildings and houses and vehicles and that kind of stuff. Things that you can throw together into to make your own block party.
In the open beta, we've seen over 20,000 block parties. Once they're done playing it, there's a rating system, 1 through 5. So you can really get that feedback from the players. There's over 70,000 NFTs that have already been purchased in our open beta, and we've been seeing just tons and tons of people jump in.
Now that NFTs are moving into the mainstream, the most important thing for games, for gaming studios that want to focus on NFTs is to really ensure that their gameplay, their player experience is on par or exceeds anything else in the mainstream market today.
We're putting the fun in non-fungible tokens. That's what we're doing. It's going to be really exciting to see the game, the community grow over the next few months. What we're building here with NFTs and blockchain really changes that script, because then it's players that can actually benefit and profit off of all the money they spend.
Part of my art exists in the fine art world, and in that world, I could create a painting and sell a painting, and then that painting goes off to a collector, and then I get paid once, right? And then I have no idea, no control over who gets the painting, no idea if 20 people sell it down the road for exponential amount of money. I never see a dime of that. I have no idea what to think. So one of the cool things about NFTs is that smart contract that's locked in, and you're able to just not only track who gets it, but share that profit forever.
While one will collect for love, the other side that you want to collect from is also from a perspective of capital appreciation. You know, when we look at the collector world today, vinyl toys are on a tear, right? Just the very fact that Blanco's Block Party created a platform where you could not only collect digital vinyl toys created by epic vinyl toy artists, but at the same time use those vinyl toys to battle other people in games. I truly believe that it's a magic formula for, you know, not only epic capital appreciation on the assets themselves, but also, you know, immense amount of enjoyment in playing the game.
Today's gamers are used to having a lot of control over customizing the experience that they have. We've seen that in the trend of games coming out over the last 10 years. Players spend a lot of time online, they spend a lot of time in digital space. That's where they want to express themselves, through skins, through cosmetics, through the things that they buy through games. I think that's where, you know, Blancos really shines and what we can bring to the table, but also where I think NFTs play a huge role, right? Like, because it gives you a chance to really own the world around you, the universe that you're customizing, you're creating. You've got a greater stake in this thing now. Rudy Koch, SVP Business Development. Am I just supposed to say that? Just my name? Title? All right. I'm a big-time collector. I collect vinyl toys. I have a whole wall of them at home. I'm a nerd. We're all nerds. We all collect.
I love collecting. I actually started my career in comic books.
I collect sneakers.
I loved Magic the Gathering. I had hundreds.
These concepts as collectors ourselves, like the box opening, opening a box for your Blanco, or the serial numbers on each of the NFTs that you buy. These are concepts that live in the physical collector's world that we love so much, and we wanted to bring that and translate that into the digital world. And what's amazing is that with the players that we've seen so far and the people engaging with the economy, they are getting these concepts, and it's been a lot of fun to see that all unfold.
With real toys in real life, right? When the way to keep their value is you put them in the box, you put them on the shelf, you leave them there. But with Blankos, as you play with them, they get better. You can customize them. You can make them the way that you want them to be, but also increase their rarity and increase their scarcity by playing with them. Our leveling up process, it's called Grade Up. It draws from real toy and collectible culture. It's kind of a neat turn on everything that you would think about collectibles.
I'm looking to invest in and acquire assets from games that have the ability to move into the mainstream, games that have the ability to become AAA titles. There are mainly three that top my list. Again, Blanko's Block Party, Gods Unchained, as well as Axis Infinity. They've been able to integrate blockchain within their gaming mechanisms, really in the background, rather than having it to be a requirement to be able to participate in the game and participate in the community.
Get yours, yeah. Get the money, get the money. Ooh la 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 la, throw it all on me, yeah.
A really key focus for my team has been making sure that our marketplace is very accessible for really all players in the game. This is going to continue to develop as we add more functionality around cryptocurrencies, being able to use your crypto wallet. But the core focus of our product is making sure that the mainstream audience is able to enjoy the game and have a super simple experience.
Historically, like if you're playing a game and you're trying to sell your items, the game developer doesn't support that, right? And Mythical Games takes the stance of we enable it and we facilitate it. Mythical's blockchain uses proof of authority for consensus, which basically is a much lower carbon footprint than proof of work. And we're planning to bridge to multiple chains. We're bridging to Ethereum, which is about to go to proof of stake, which is about 99.5% less energy. By using blockchain technology, you own your game assets, and then you can build another marketplace, you can build another interface, you can bring them into another game, different metaverses, and that's a new paradigm, and it's inevitable, and I think gamers are going to demand it. Traditionally, like when you're participating in a marketplace, you're relying on trust in the company to keep the database accurate. Where Mythical Games is using a blockchain where our smart contracts are publicly accessible. So you have confidence and trust that you're getting what you're buying and your true ownership, and you have it forever. Because traditionally game companies can just say there are 1,000 of them, but who knows if there are 1,000, right? With Mythical Games, we have provable scarcity. And with provable scarcity, as an investor, a collector, or a gamer, that's really what you want.
I've been drawing since I could hold a pen or a pencil. My granddad taught me how to do an engineer drawing when I was 4. I've just fell in love with the idea of drawing and creating. It's just something that gives me a ton of joy. As I started to look around at art, it always really appealed to me, but I was always really appealed by graffiti art and the music that I listened to. To have a favorite, that's like asking me what my favorite child is. It's currently my daughter, by the way, if anyone was asking. So for me, it just evolved over time as I started to learn a bit more about street artists and see the evolution of street artists, see an artist go from kind of painting an illegal wall to having a gallery showing or something like that. Seeing how those artists use different mediums again, it's not just about canvases, it's about sculpture. It's about taking these shapes and these 3D canvases and expressing their desires, their needs, whatever it is they're trying to say on a different canvas. We know where we sit now compared to 20 odd years ago when all these artists were still just street artists getting arrested for doing throw-ups on trains. And now, a couple of $1 million at Sotheby's, I'm like, it's pretty cool.
Where should our hands be?
I'll just do this.
Oh, okay.
I'm super excited to talk to you guys about some of the artists that we're bringing into the game, some of the first collaborators, and I think it's appropriate to start with Michael Lau.
Michael Lau is a legend in the space. He's definitely known as the godfather of vinyl toys. He has this really awesome quote, which is, all art are toys and all toys are art. And I think like that is perfect for Blankos. And so I think we're really excited to see his style come alive in our realm.
點解想合作？咁其實一路以嚟都好想自己啲 character 可以喐啦，好似可以做一啲 animation 啊或者 game。咁今次真係有機會同一個咁配合到 figure 個 game 合作，所以係好開心。
Another artist and designer that we're super excited to talk about is Quix. And what I love about Quix is that one, he's a graffiti artist, but two, he's super hip hop culture. Love his designs, love the samurai.
He has this really iconic, like Japanese mech warrior style. So, I think we are all just excited to see that come alive in the Blankos universe.
My artwork and the style of toys that I do now are pretty much rooted from the stuff that I've loved since I was a kid. I grew up in the 80s, so I was heavily influenced by a lot of Japanese robot shows. Texas history is like my Mickey Mouse. He represents Japanese robots, hip-hop, and graffiti, all rolled into one character.
This brand that we're going to reveal now is near and dear to my heart. I'm actually wearing some sneakers that represent them. I will let my friend Nicole here tee it up.
The Marathon Company, from a culture perspective, they've worked with some incredible folks, obviously led by Nipsey Hussle, and we certainly want to honor his memory.
Nip was someone before he passed who was already into technology. It's such an honor to be able to carry on his legacy in a sense and bring them into the world of Blankos.
One Blanco can be so many different things. A Blanco can be a pattern, it can be a unicorn, it can be so many different characters. We work regularly with Kronk. His skill at being able to create characters make you commit to those characters, they're believable. And then we have JPK, we have industry legends like James Groman, Nikki Davis, Sarah McBisson, Alground Chamako, Junko Mizuno, Hakuta, and Thomas Han. We're not just picking from one person's perspective, which really helps to kind of broaden those cultural references.
I am an avid vinyl toy collector. I have just a house, floor to ceiling, vinyl toys. To find a game that did such a really great crossover between that kind of tangible good and have that element in the game, no doubt by the end of this time next year, I'm gonna have a whole row of Blankos. So. It's art in a 3D form. I think it's a really great online safe haven for street art where it keeps its integrity and it isn't bastardized. Whether it's on geometry or it's sculpted or it's just tags on walls and stuff like that. I like that. I just like exploring the space. And then you still see this coalescence of cohesion as opposed to a random vomit. Art exhibit games like Blankos, I think is a really great bridge between the traditional mediums of creating art, digital art, or street art or stuff like that, and then into the game engine. And that's cool because all the elements that are familiar to the Deadmau5 fan were really well executed in these skins. Anything else, weenies? In the back.
So now that the video is coming to a close, download Blankos, blankos.com, bring your vinyl toys to life, build your own levels, buy all the designs from your favorite brands, artists, and designers, share it with all your friends so they download and play it together. And we look forward to seeing you within the world of Blankos.
But wait, we're partnering with the fashion industry's most coveted brands to bring you their style, Blanko style. And our first collab is a name you'll recognize. They're known worldwide for their signature plaids and heritage prints.
I'm incredibly excited to announce that Burberry will be partnering with Mythical Games to launch a limited edition Blanco in their game Blanco's Block Party. Pushing boundaries and discovering new ways to innovate with our communities have always been at the heart of what we do as a brand. Being a part of this creative and pioneering community with Mythical Games is an incredible synergy for us and a perfect evolution of our existing engagement with the gaming communities. This partnership presents Burberry's first exploration into the world of NFTs. This opens up a whole new platform of possibilities, and it empowers digital natives and gamers to own a piece of our brand and actively engage and participate with our house codes. We can't wait to embark on this pioneering journey with Mythical Games as we explore the future of digital ownership in gaming, whilst discovering new environments and a myriad of possibilities within this community.
All right, you got the last word. Make it count.
That's a good question here. Let me give me 5 seconds here to think about it.
All right, guys, let's cut on cameras.
Thank God. If you're ready to start building, playing, and earning, you can download and join Blanco's Block Party now in early access on PC.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Also, watch your favorite content creators on Twitch this week for a chance to get an exclusive new Blanco, only available through Twitch.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
On behalf of all of us at Mythical, thanks for joining.
I feel like you nailed it.
To E3 2021, and we'll get to our thoughts on Mythical Games here in a second. But first, we wanted to remind everyone that they could win a $100 gift card from our partners at DoorDash just by tagging them in a tweet and following them on Twitter. It's as simple as that. But Mythical Games, I said before, it's a different kind of experience, right, Jackie? It's did you learn a little bit about the blockchain?
I mean, I learned so much, and honestly, the art was breathtaking.
Yeah.
They were talking about how this is the evolution of modern art. I think Deadmau5 himself said this is a safe haven for street art, and I'm honestly just blown away by the entire concept. You were taking me like 101. It was basically like NFT 101, Bitcoin 101, all of this stuff like kind of went over my head. But when you broke it down for me, I think it was just so intimidating to me before. Like, I was like, I don't even know how to get into this. But then once you broke it all down, I was like, I understand the concept and the proof of authority. Like, this is amazing for us to have that. And then to just bring in art and entertainment and design, like, I'm here for it. I love it. But you're going to have to school me some more. We're going to have to do some private lessons.
I got you covered. But the one 15-minute presentation wasn't enough.
You didn't get to see his. By the way, you
need
to make one of these, right? I saw your art earlier. It was phenomenal.
Stick figure art, amazing. Blanco's hit me up, Mythical, I'm all about it. But Greg, at its core though, let's not forget Blanco's Block Party is a game.
Right.
And it has one of those types of Roblox experiences to it, where, it's a make your own adventure type of game. And those are really picking up. Like, I know a lot of people want to knock on it, but Roblox is like one of the biggest games of all time, of course, and huge on YouTube and stuff. So it's clear that this is a great direction for something like this to go, where you can express your creativity.
Right, 100%. And I think that's what's interesting about it, is their presentation was so focused on how NFTs work, what they're doing, the designers and artists they're partnering up with. It makes sense in the way of, hey, we want you to understand the business side of it. But for me, I was more, can we see more of the game? Can we talk more about the games? And I was talking to you about it, and it's that idea of like, well, you could, but you can make whatever you want in it, right? And that's what stands out to me, as a little Big Planet fan. Even for Mod Nation Racers, but then more like
Mod Nation Racers.
Right? Right now, think about how Core is doing this, how Roblox is doing this. Get in and make your own games. The fact there's already been more than 20,000 block parties they're talking about there. They called it out. You can make shooters, you can make platformers. It's it's early access right now. It's free to play on PC. It's one of those jump on in. It doesn't cost you anything, that you don't have to buy a guy right away or do anything like that.
Yeah, a very, very cool concept. I'm very excited to see where they go from here. 100%, Greg.
100%.
And also, anyone can hit you up on Twitter for private lessons, correct?
Yeah, totally.
Just make the YouTube video of it, Golden Boy. That's all you need to do.
I'm just trying to get out of frame, guys. Okay.
I'll get you out of here. What do you do when you get one of the hottest DJs on the planet collaborates with one of the sick indie titles we're talking about? Well, I caught up with Deadmau5 and Jamie Jackson of Mythical Games to explain how they plan to keep the party going for Blancos and the crew.
He talked to Deadmau5. What?
So how did this collaboration come about?
I think Inder forced it on us.
Yeah, Rudy forced it on me. We didn't want to work together again. We would.
No, it was all mandated. Orders from above, from our benevolent overlords.
So that's mostly true, but also, you know, we're in the video game world, we're in the NFT world. You know, Joel, you've done some cool stuff in it as well, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I've been playing around with that, but I you know, outside of like, you know, the woo and wah of selling JPEGs for tens of thousands of dollars, I really liked what you guys were doing with like kind of the integrating the tangible good with that same kind of video gamey thing. That was what really got me excited.
First time with Blankos anyway, where we kind of put somebody in the game and tried to create what their character was like. You know, it was pretty cool. It was cool to like figure out how we represented him as well.
What was the inspiration behind the Dead Mouse cross Blankos character?
I mean, from my point of view, I knew like how Joel's cat Meowingtons is a big part of his life, and it felt like, you know, we wanted to represent the head, the mouse head, because it's such an iconic part of who he is and what he does. But we kind of didn't want to just do a modification to the Blanco. We wanted to make it a bit bigger than that. So it's actually the first time we've got a full head attachment in the game. And then we were like, well, you know, it'd be cool if when that head comes off, it's not Joel underneath, and it's Meowingtons, and we kind of took a play on that. And I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really cool that they didn't just schlep a mouse head on it and call it a day. I mean, they also integrated the cat, my cat, Meowingtons, who I'm a big fan of, and just the fact that, you know, it's like the mouse head, but when they take the mouse head off, it's actually Meowingtons, which is pretty cool because he's kind of all part of the Dead Mouse Joel ethos.
Yeah, I like that we repped through one of your early suits in it as well. I was a long-term fan.
Yeah, I stopped doing that. It was just too much effort. I like the first 2 or 3 shows, I did the suit thing, and I'm like, you know what? It's too much. It's too much. We're gonna strip it down a bit.
It's a cool throwback, though.
How do NFTs expand the reach of your brand?
It's a new technology and all that stuff too. So we're just going through the trials and tribulations of what is it? Because I think the general consensus right now, if you were to ask a man on the street, oh, what's an NFT? Oh, isn't that like a $10,000 JPEG? You know, is kind of the answer you're going to get. But it's really a lot more than that. It's the underlying framework and technology that allows for, you know, the blockchain provenance, you know, that unique identifier that can be used from platform to platform to platform. So think of it as like what Steam's is to video games is, you know, is like the world's Steam, you know, like, so it's every time you log into Steam or something like that, they're gonna use Steamworks to, like, you know, grab achievements and stuff like that. It's all stored on that centralized system, but blockchain being the similar concept, but decentralized across all computers and stuff like that. And because the way that the infrastructure works with blockchain is that's all very easily swappable. The metadata, not the actual assets, but that metadata that ties to the assets can be interchangeable between a multitude of systems. So now I think that people are just now starting to kind of take in that standard protocol of, you know, fetching and receiving wallet data and stuff like that, tying assets to individuals through game platforms is a big win.
But then what are the benefits of NFTs for players?
So from a Blanco's point of view, it's about trust, really. If you boil it down, it's about trust and proof of ownership. You know, no gamer has truly owned any asset they've ever bought in a game before. You know, it's all just a license, right? And you kind of just trusting them. There's no way to prove it. Whereas with NFTs, you can kind of, it's proof. You can see it. It's open. You know, if we say there's this many, there's this many. If you own it, you own it. And with Blankos and our marketplace, that means you can also go and sell it as well. So really, it's just about trust and truly owning the assets that you pay money for.
When's the first Dead Mouse Blanco drop?
This summer.
This summer? Like this summer or next summer? This summer. Oh, nice.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Now, let's get back to the show.
One of the things I liked, obviously, in the Dead Mouse presentation here was him being very much like, why are you doing this with your brand? He's like, because nobody knows what it is. Like, it's groundbreaking, it's cutting edge, and like, I like
the idea of embracing something that, is this going to work? Is it going to translate to video games? Who knows? The other thing I like that I didn't call it from the original presentation, because I didn't get the presentation about NFTs from Golden Boy, you know? So I didn't
you didn't get the special one-on-one.
But I really appreciate the idea that the original artist gets money on these. I didn't realize that.
Amazing.
Like, you make it, and I buy it from the marketplace, but then I sell it 20 times
you know,
over.
you heard what he said, right? Like, you know, he makes one of the artists said, I make a piece, and then that piece gets sold, and then that piece gets resold, and then resold and resold, and that artist doesn't see the value from it. And I think that's something that a lot of people, can relate to. Like, content creators can relate to that. Content gets reused all the time, and they don't see anything from that. And this is like a way through the blockchain to be able to ensure that through these smart contracts, you can do that. So it is beneficial for the creator, which, you know, without the creators, we don't get a lot of these cool things, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Proof of authority in the blockchain.
Girl, there you go.
I'm proud of myself.
It doesn't work. I don't know what that is. If you don't, you know what? Get out of here. Well, I hope you folks at home like indie games, because we've got you covered. We are going to take a quick break, and then our Voices of E3 will discuss the indie gaming industry right before we reveal some of the hottest new indie titles releasing soon. So stay with us. If indie is the future is now. Ooh. That did not go as far as I thought.
My craziest E3 story is that I lost my wallet at the beginning of the day. I had this Pokeball wallet, and it dropped out of my bag, and I thought, well, that's it. My life is ruined. Well, I still got to get all this footage in. So I still did E3, and then I got a call from Lost and Found, and they'd actually found my wallet, and I felt like that was the biggest W of my life, because I had an amazing E3. I got to go to the Cyberpunk Lounge. I got incredible footage, and I got my wallet back.
As a part of Play For All, GameSpot will be bringing you the latest gaming news and announcements, interviews with developers, the biggest press conferences, and lots more. Play For All is our yearly online event that combines the excitement and announcements of E3 with charity live streams the following week, with lots of special guests who are going to help us raise money for able gamers. So join us in June for E3 and Play For All on GameSpot.com, YouTube.com/GameSpot, Twitch.tv/GameSpot, and as a part of the E3's official broadcast. See you then.
篝火营地是中国领先的游戏媒体，创立于2018年，致力于为全世界的中文游戏玩家提供专业、精准、迅速的资讯情报。篝火营地立足于中国，与多家国际一流游戏媒体同行达成正式内容合作关系，源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，篝火营地在全网的内容浏览量已经超过5亿，服务了数百万的读者和玩家。我们的愿景是做游戏文化传播者。您可以在全球各大手机应用市场下载篝火营地 APP， 或者访问3w.gamebonfire.com 来加入游戏传播者的行列。
Hi, I'm Ariko. I am a self-proclaimed Nintendo lifer. I want to work at Nintendo as long as they will keep me. I am head of indies, and I'm probably one of the handful of people who have worked in all 3 major regions, so Nintendo of Japan, Europe, and currently I work at Nintendo of America. I am super honored and excited to be here today. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Micah. I'm studio head for Other Ocean and Digital Eclipse. I've been making games for far too long, but my favorite games these days happen to be these really fun small games called indie games.
Hi, Michelle Branstetter, Director of Business Development for Freedom Games. I started in games long ago, PS1, Brew, even earlier than that. Love it, excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and excited to announce more games too.
Hi, I'm Edmund McMillan, creator of Super Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, and a bunch of other games. I'm an indie game developer. You may know me from Indie Game the Movie. Well, maybe not, it's 10 years old, but I'm here. Hi, thanks for having me.
So in recent years, and particularly over this last year, we've seen more and more people playing games. Indie games have filled the void of social and activities in the day-to-day life just as much as AAA titles. Do you believe that this line between indie games and larger publisher games is becoming blurred in the eyes of gamers?
It's becoming more of a drastic thing. Like there are super indies, and then there's this like marketable indie, which is I think a more acceptable thing that a lot of publishers are picking up. But it's kind of surprising. The real breakout hits tend to be the ones that aren't even being looked at by a publisher, that are just being picked up by, going viral, essentially.
It's right to say that like indie seems to be the in thing right now. A lot of people are like, indie games, go here. It's like a category. Go to the indie games category. But I do like the idea of blurring the lines, because when I was a kid buying software or downloading software, whatever you were doing back then, I would not disassociate what Jeff Minter was doing from, say, an Activision game at the time. And right now, when I'm sitting there like going through a storefront, I'm not looking for like specific things. Things catch my eye, and I see all these smaller games. There's so many of them now. But like, I'm actually looking for something that appeals to me. It's like when I used to go to the music store and go to different sections in the store. I wasn't really looking for a specific artist. I was trying to find that artist that spoke to me and take a gamble on it. I love that part of this right now. I love that somebody can still in their garage with all the engines we have now and all the help that you can get online and create a vision and then put it out there for people to either come en masse and enjoy, or just come to take a look, and maybe you don't sell that many games, or maybe you don't like get that many downloads. But to me, that is what Edmund's saying is the quintessential indie in my mind.
I want to add to that, because at Nintendo we're definitely seeing that. I think there's such a ease to access. There's more accessibility to tools and technology now, and so a lot of the smaller developers are able to self-express and really create unique experiences that they want to do. And at Nintendo, we definitely discussed about, okay, how do we define indies? Like, what does that mean? And ultimately, we decided, let our partners decide if they identify as indies, and how do they want to represent indies. And we're just here to really support and amplify their message. And if you look at our Indie World showcases, it's really intentional, where we let the developers talk. They're like the superstars of our showcases. And they're the ones who are on camera, and they're the stars of the show, and they get to tell their stories with their own voices.
Do you feel that having the Nintendo Switch and the graphic style that's popular in the games, and just the wealth of indie titles that are available on the platform, is due to the platform itself, or to the audience that you have, or your connection with those developers?
Yeah, I think we want our content to reflect our audience, and our audience is all genders, all ages. They have all the different tastes in games, and they're from all over the world. And so at Nintendo, we always talk about diversity and innovation. Like, those two words come out all the time. And we have indie teams based in Europe and Japan and the US and elsewhere. And we all have an equal voice. It's truly global when we think about, okay, what do we want to showcase through our campaigns? And so we want to make sure that our global teams have equal voices, and the content reflect our audience.
Absolutely. Michelle, I know that Freedom Games publishes many games from small developers. Do you see those developers, though you're publishing them, as indies, and do they identify as indies themselves?
Yeah, most of our developers really do identify as indie. And then I want to say the indie space has evolved a lot over the years. There's a lot of competition in that space now too. But yeah, we have our developers all over the world. They're in Europe, they're in Southeast Asia, a little bit all over the place, and they're very passionate about their games, and we find them kind of everywhere. They're not really, you can't find them in a specific place anymore. They're just the kid you met at the grocery store that has this amazing game you never heard about until now, or whichever. It's everywhere now. And like Eriko said, it's so easy to make games now. Great games. So there's a lot more competition. There's a lot more great games coming out, and it's interesting to see where the space will continue to go over the years. But yeah, we are focusing on that. We have a robust catalog coming out over the next year and a half and going forward as well.
Awesome. Well, I certainly look forward to that. Edmund, I know that many people consider Binding of Isaac to be a genre-defining success. Do you see indies in their role to explore new mechanics, genres, and storytelling approaches as, something that truly defines indies and their freedoms?
For me, the thing that really defines indies is the ability to take complete, financial risk when it comes to themes and topics and gameplay and everything. Like doing something that a large company wouldn't be able to do because they couldn't invest multi-millions of dollars in a project that wasn't comparable to something that exists. And that's the way all big business works. It's stupid to take a risk with that much money. So it makes perfect sense. It's like, no, it's just the way it works. But if you're a small team of a handful of people and your budget's basically your rent, you can do whatever you'd like to do. And you could make a new genre, like Among Us. It's like you can take big risks and you can do what you want. And that's the beauty of complete independence. You can try to avoid the urge to appeal to a majority.
Ed Catmull speaks of the concept of the ugly baby and the hungry beast, and the hungry beast being a large company that needs to keep churning and making money in order to employ all of the people that it has working at it. Whereas the ugly baby is a brand new idea that's strange and unpolished, and it needs to be protected to see if it can grow into a beautiful swan or a beautiful indie game. Do you feel like indie studios are particularly good at taking care of ugly babies? And do you have any advice for someone who might have this idea of their own and how to initially vet that idea to see if it's worth bringing into production?
I think one thing that indie games do really well, again, we let our partners identify, but they put their heart and soul into it, right? They have a vision, they have a story they want to tell. They don't really care. It's about what they want to create. They have a vision, and that's what creates a magic. And for Nintendo, as long as that puts a smile on someone's face, for us, we're really excited about that. For me, recently, it was a short hike. I am a mom of two, and I'm super busy all the time and exhausted at the end of the day. And so when I get to put that on and relax and, fly around the island, it's cute, adorable characters. And I even shed a tear. I won't spoil it for people, but, that's a great indie game for me. And so I think that's the magic of indie games.
Michelle, how does Freedom Games evaluate these initially unproven mechanics and ideas?
The developers are extremely passionate about the game. That kind of weighs a lot into it as well. I came from an indie background too. If you didn't live, eat, and sleep what you were selling, it wasn't going to work. So a lot of our indies are kind of the same, but more in a more healthy scenario now. That's something that we consider too. But basically, Triple I is all about passion. It really is, and that's what kind of differentiates it from some other titles or genres is passion, I would say.
Right now, what I love about a lot of really good, talented game developers that I meet is that their motivation isn't driven by money. It's driven by a singular vision they really have had for a long time usually. They just want to make it happen. And it gets so infectious when you hear it that you suddenly get caught up in it and you want to make it happen. And the reality is, no, if people could really hear it all the time, if people could really predict what a hit's going to be, we'd have a lot more hits. We don't. Like, that's just stupid. There's always people in the room that you're not in. You're never at the table. They're saying, well, you know, this isn't going to do X because they're doing some math on it. They're over, under, or whatever they call it, and all these different methods they use. But they're rarely ever right. But the person who has that singular vision for so long, who's thought about it forever, like, how can you pit those people against somebody who's been thinking about this their whole life and just wanting to do it? You really can't.
Absolutely. I think storytelling itself is something that indie games can do very well, and particularly when it comes to telling unique stories. Are there any indie game titles that you have all played that you found to be particularly inspiring or emotion invoking in general?
I'm a huge fan of games that present their themes through gameplay.
Yeah.
Whatever the story, I want to be part of it. I don't want to feel like I'm watching a movie that I'm hitting pause and then I'm doing something else and then coming back and hitting play. I want to feel like it's a dynamic, living world that someone has presented to me, and what I do has some say in what this story is. Or
it's a visceral experience.
They're painting a world with bits and pieces, and you get to fill in the blanks. I think that's more complementary to video games because you're already in that puzzle solving creative mindset. So it lets people be more immersed in than simply just telling somebody a story.
Enrico, do you think that there are more social games that are being developed in the indie space with the lack of social activity in person for the last year, and also the success of games like Among Us?
There's just so many people who love different games. So Among Us has been explosively successful on our platform, and Nintendo was super excited to have it on our platform. Our audience loved it. But look at Hades, for example, which is also on Nintendo Switch. It won Game of the Year recently at DICE. And so I think there's just all sorts of games. A funny story is Human Fall Flat. That's another puzzle game published by Curve Digital. And that's been massively popular in Japan. And elementary school kids who probably don't have the concept of indies, they just loved it. They thought it was super fun, and it's been really popular in Japan. So I think there's just all sorts of games that are fun and out there.
Do any of you have other thoughts about the future of indie games, or what we can expect from the genre or art form moving forward?
The thing I love most about, I guess, how we're referring to indie games here is, like, I love the not knowing what's coming, because ultimately it's anticipating that I'm not capable of anticipating what's going to be the next thing coming out. Like, I love finding something I never thought I would like, or I've never thought would be a game or even fun. Like when Job Simulator, for instance, came out, I'm like, who wants to, like, it goes against Ron Gilbert's thing about, like, getting off a job and then going home and relaxing. I loved it. Or, like, all these sorts of things, or like even some weird things that would come out of mobile and all this stuff. Like, I would just never anticipate that stuff and things like that. And it's I guess what I look forward to is the things I cannot anticipate.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. It's so great to hear the different perspectives about indie games and indie studios, as well as hear your thoughts on what's coming up next and what to look out for. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you very much.
iHeartRadio is a proud partner of E3 2021 and the #1 podcast publisher in the U.S. Listen to all your favorite shows on the iHeartRadio app. And, of course, Golden Boy, just like us. Use the razor stuff. Use the razor blade.
Use the razor stuff.
Use the razor chair. Have a good time. You know what I mean?
I have actually been wanting a razor blade for a very long time. When I used to work at Twitch.
Put it in your bag.
Yes, I should. When I used to work at Twitch, you had an option. You can either get a razor for like Windows users or a Mac.
Yeah.
And I don't mess with Macs at all because I'm terrible. My brain just doesn't work that way for some reason. So I went with the original razor blade.
Yeah.
That was so fun to carry around the office. Just a sleek black thing.
Sure, play games whenever you want too.
Yeah,
right?
it was amazing.
That's pretty
I
big,
used to
right?
just at that time I was playing a lot of controller games, so I would just plug it in and just go nuts. It was a good time. So yeah, it sounded like a shameless plug, but I swear to God, it was the truth.
Well, speaking of a shameless plug, the Razer Blade is a great place to play indie games. And what an indie presentation we just had. Of course, it's not over. We have the indie panel coming up. But there was something said in that panel here. Janet Garcia, of course, from MinMax and Kinda Funny, put up this tweet. That's the beauty of independence. You can try to avoid the urge to appeal to a majority. That was Ed McMillan on that panel right there.
So good.
I think that is the power of indie games, and especially as we're here at E3 talking about the biggest of big AAA games, but also spotlighting so many small indies is, yeah, you can take more chances as a small studio.
It's vital to highlight the independent games business as a whole because there's so much diversity there. And just in the games that they're delivering, top to bottom, you can ram off like a few names like off the top of your head, but for me, one independent game that I discovered that I fell in love with was Moonlighter.
Oh my God, yes.
Love that game so much. And I found it out on a whim because I was playing another independent game. I think it's Momodora, I believe was on the Switch. Great game. And I was like, man, I'm looking for something else. And, I finished that one and I found Moonlighter. And oh my goodness, it just stole me. It captured my heart. Love that game. And I wouldn't have found that, if someone just, take that to a AAA studio or something like that.
Totally, and that's the thing right now is there are so many indies, it's impossible to keep up with all of them, right? And that's, Moonlighter was the exact same thing. My job, of course, every day is to talk about video games, review video games, preview video games, and I didn't know about Moonlighter until somebody on our subreddit was like, this is a great game, you need to play it. 100%. And that's why I think it's so powerful that E3 keeps doing indie showcases, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get back to game reviews.
Yeah.
We know why we're here, we know why you're there, so without further delay, here are some of the hottest indie titles set to come your way soon.
Ahora sí están anunciando juegos. Ya era hora, ¿no? Ay, ay.
In a long time, Michael. I heard you were back in town. But I don't remember sending you
What the fuck?
an invitation. I'd kill you myself. But where's the fun?
¿Qué es esto?
No, Michael. I'm gonna roll out the red carpet for you.
New Blood Presents. Ya era hora de que presentaran juegos, no. Joder. Joder. Shit. Muy bueno, la verdad.
I'll be watching you, Michael. Good luck, old friend.
Fallen Aces. DoomNoir.com. Doom Noir. Ok. Ya era hora de que sacaran juegos, güey. Estaban hable y hable como pendejos por 2 horas o 3.
Alright, Captain. I got the intel.
Good. Now take it to the uplink.
Que es otro Overwatch, ¿no? De ese estilo.
Target is marked.
Invader Hunter.
I guess I'll kill you now. The drone is down. The drone is mine.
Armor activating.
Action established.
Execute protection mode.
Dog
Alright,
Guardian.
download the data. Now we know what to do.
Soldiers, we need you here. Keep your wig on tight. I'm all ours.
Salters, Renader. Bot Roller.
So, what we're gonna do with the intel?
We need it for the job. You know, the heist, larceny.
Larceny? More like...
Larcenautas. Este verano. Toy Soldiers. Soldados de juguete.
A most ingenious plan to end this war too sweet and straight away. Joint to see the general. Sergeant told me no.
Ay.
Trench is where you meant to say. I said, dear Sergeant, pardon me. I see that I but let me tell you my plan to save the day. Oh, let's try being a little nicer. Let us all agree to disagree. I
new levels. And all of the original deals. Yo no conocía este juego. En agosto de este año. Toy Soldiers.
That was tough. Hamilton, some beast is looking
What
at
the
us.
fuck?
Whoa, would you look at that? This is one heck of a planet. So green and beautiful. Let's just be careful, sir.
Un toro. ¿Qué pedo con las vacas? 4-player multiplayer. Una vaca diablo. Mulander. En la primavera del 2022.
Game developers are creative, passionate, and driven. We tackle new technologies and overcome many challenges in the pursuit of our creative vision. At the IGDA, it is our mission to support and empower all game developers around the world.
No,
We
otra vez
provide
Z, Z,
community,
Z.
mentorship, research, knowledge, and best practices. We're here for you when you need it, so you can advance your career while keeping your health. Join us and help make our industry a better place for all of us, now and in the future. Help make a difference and join
Otra vez
the
Z, Z,
IGDA.
Z. ¿Qué es eso? TikTok Games presenta. What? Son animales, son como los Paw Patrol. Pero estos van por el espacio. Tú estabas en el espacio. Yo vine. Bio Interstellar Arc Bark. Tunguska. Oh, ¿qué es eso, gato? Un plataformer de un gato. What? Pues que viene entre 2 y 3D. Eso me gustó. Wow. Eso sí está muy bien pensado. Un Mario con ese estilo puede estar muy bueno. Que puedes cambiar entre 2 y 3D. Y ahora está en el espacio. Y ahora en el desierto. What the fuck? Creo que este sí lo voy a jugar, Neko Ghost Jump. Va a estar por to play football. Pero porque meten música con copyright. Güey. Defend the planet. Ahora, si la bajo mucho no creo que salte. En la conferencia de ayer sí me saltaron 2 canciones. What you are really made of. Extragaláctica, solo para Steam. Early Access. E3 2021. Oh, no, más Z. No. Ya no quiero que hablen nunca. Solo quiero ver anuncios. A nadie le importa que se hable y hable como idiota. Nadie los quiere escuchar hablar.
That was just one of many games that had a very retro feel. Fallen Aces was another one that I wrote down on my list. So yeah, I just feel like I'm getting all these retro vibes this year. Damon, I'm sure you're loving it.
Yeah, for sure. And I liked Extra Galactica. First of all, I love the pixel art style, so that appeals to me. And it looks like the gameplay is a mix of shooter and 2D action platformer. I don't know, do you have any more information about what that game actually is?
To be honest, he sent me like a 2-page email, so I'll make sure to pass it along.
El Neko fue el mejor, el Neko Ghost.
Honestly, he sent it to me this morning. He's like, dude, this is gonna be in the show. And I was like, what? Like, that was one that I wrote down earlier that I liked because I got to get a sneak peek at the presentation. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that game. And yeah, that totally vibed. It was amazing. But Fallen Aces
se va ganando el Neko Ghost Jump.
Very Doom inspired. And we saw something from the same studio or creator yesterday.
Yeah, we saw Dave Oshry from New Blood during the PC Gaming Show before he was unceremoniously cut off by Gabe Newell talking about Steam Next Fest. Look, they have a bunch of cool stuff coming out. I also love all the URLs they have for each of their games, very tongue-in-cheek. This one was literally Doom Noir.
Yeah.
It does feel like a throwback to the FPS of yesteryear with that stylized sort of 1920s gangster flair. It looks like a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness, I love the narration,
Bueno,
right?
cuando vuelvan a anunciar el juego,
that voice is just haunting me.
I'm sure it really spoke to you, Michael. Yeah. The whole trailer was like, yo, Michael, I know you. I'm watching you. Like, oh, you're watching me. Oh, I appreciate that because I'm on the E3 stage. You know the vibe.
Oh man, and Michael, I want to talk to you about Fallen Frontier Alliance of Salt Sons?
Sacred Sons.
Sacred Sons. I can't read my own handwriting here, guys. And then Terra Invicta. And you and Dan were kind of having some crosstalk about how these indie games, they're keeping dead genres alive.
Yeah, the genres that have been of yesteryear, especially for that aren't really popular. You can't really get a AAA RTS anymore. You can't really get, I mean, other than we have Humankind and we have Civilization, but if you want a different 4X strategy game, that's what Alliance of the Sacred Sons is kind of covering. And Terra Invicta, a grand strategy game. Of course, we have Total War, but maybe you want a little bit of variety. So the thing about independent games that I really like is that you can revitalize those genres of the past. And you can be experimental, and I think this is a theme also when you look at a lot of the independent games is that they have experimental game mechanics. I think that Neko Ghost Jump, which I love so very much, like you can play with perspective and put a spin on platforming, and yeah, but the triple threat of strategy games. I know that I used to play a lot of them when I had time back in the day. I used to play a lot of StarCraft and Warcraft, and I miss I miss like the early days of Civilization 4 when I was in high school and I had time to pour into matches. And so if you're craving that sort of thing, you can definitely pay attention to these sorts of games and maybe get your fill.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think 4X games are a fantastic way to hit fast forward on life sometimes. Like, for example, Civilization was a saving grace during the pandemic as well, because you'd be like, oh man, I'm really kind of bored right now. Oh, suddenly it is 4 a.m. and I've been playing this for hours. And that looks exactly like what I'm going to get from Alliance of the Sacred Sons. But I also have to say, one that really caught my eye here is a game that looks like a bit of a Metroidvania, and that is Moolander.
Oh my gosh, I had that
super
on my
fun.
list. Yeah.
Like it's the same sort of like irreverent feeling that I got from a game like Guacamelee, for example. But with this, I love that these cows are your enemies. I was getting some Diablo 2 vibes from that hell cow at the end there. I'm just very excited to see what that has in store because it looks like it has a good sense of action, gameplay, and whimsy.
Wow, you really milked that one. An utter disgrace.
Utterly.
Oh, no.
Beat me to it.
If y'all could
Got beef
hear the
now.
puns coming from Dan, we really should be writing them down.
We
We did have the poll up earlier, though, and I wasn't able to reference it right away because I just love hearing y'all talk about this stuff. But I do think that Nico Ghost Jump was #1. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was
Hell
like,
yeah.
there you go. And then also I know there was Life Slide and a bunch of other incredibly cute ones that I was just like, oh my gosh, indie games, just so much fun. But okay, favorites. Should we go down the line here? Damon, what you picking? I see the wheels turning.
I mean, they were coming fast and furiously.
Yeah.
I know people like Fallen Aces. I got to give a shout out to Toy Soldiers HD. I
that was
reviewed
fun.
the original Toy Soldiers for IGN way back in the day, and that's like a tower defense game that you're kind of take the action right down to the ground. It's built in 3D space, so it's really cool to see that game making a comeback.
Neko, I already mentioned Neko Ghost Jump, but I do want to shout out Tuscaloosa, I forgot
Tunguska,
the
the
name.
Tunguska.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, I really messed that one up. But yeah, the top-down shooter. That looks interesting. I'm very interested in that.
Larcenauts, let's go. Let's compete in VR. I'm down
Oh
for
my
it.
gosh, I love it. I think I'd pick Tunguska as well, but Nico is very
Yeah.
close behind, runner-up. Well, so many great indie titles. Let's see what GB and Greg thought of the indie games that we saw today. Hi guys, I know y'all love the Nico game. I don't even need to ask, right?
Of course we did, Jackie, but it didn't make my top 3. Golden Boy, what do you have over there? What stood out to you from that indie presentation? 2021.
A lot. So I'm actually newly appointed member of the VR community.
Oh, welcome.
You know, so yeah, so Larcenauts was awesome. I liked it a lot. Big shout out to my boy BMF. Who covers a lot of the VR stuff as a thrill seeker. Big fan of those guys, and I always love checking out their content. Keeps me up to date on all things VR.
Of course.
Then the other one, Fallen Aces, man.
Yeah,
Fallen Aces
made my list for sure. That was a dope.
Literally
trailer.
saw that and I was like, oh, I'm 100% playing this on stream. Like,
Yeah.
this is happening because it looks so dang good. And then I would probably go with Tunguska.
Okay.
Another shooter, but for some reason the style was really appealing to me. Like, the style of shooting was really appealing to me.
Sure.
So I'm all about that. Looked really good.
Okay, great. Yeah, on my list I put Fallen Aces for sure. Stylized
Too good.
first-person shooter, love it. That Doom LA Noire mashup, why not? Let's
So
get out there and do it. And yeah, New Blood, of course, always being cheeky, as they said. DoomNoir.com.
Like, they really,
the
I
website.
do feel like they like never do wrong. Like, the New Blood's great. They're a great studio.
They know what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
They're in that vein of Devolver, where they have a personality and their games do too, and you know what that means when you see that, I think, splash across it.
Exactly.
The other one I want to give a shot was Bark. It was that kid shmup that went by or whatever.
Yeah.
One of my friends in the industry is working on it. He had emailed me to give me a heads up that, hey, it's at E3. You should check it out in the virtual booth if you have time. And basically, he pitched it as a shmup for dads. Like,
Okay.
if you it's couch co-op. Get in there with your kid. You're piloting. You know, it was a little dog that caught my eye, but you can be a little cat.
Okay.
It's this colorful game that you go through and you're shooting things, but you're not shooting things.
Yeah,
Right? You're able
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
explore that way. And then, yeah, for me, to echo what people said over there, Extra Galactica, right?
Stylized. I
Come
mean,
on.
you do anything that's in a cyberpunk style world, and I'm literally there. I'm all about it. Great visuals. I feel like that is, again, you know, and everyone's gonna look at me like, oh, there's a lot of like pixel art game stuff, but you think about what people have been able to create, Greg, in these universes, in this style of artwork. It is gorgeous. And, you know, because Fallen Ace is also bringing back the stylized cel-shaded approach, which was something that I fell in love with when I first feast my eyes on Jet Grind Radio.
Oh, yeah.
So there is really a lot of quality here, and this was awesome. Some great games I'm really looking forward to trying.
Me too, ladies and gentlemen. What were your favorites? Let us know. Hashtag E3 2021 so you can get up on the big screen. But when E3 2021 returns, we'll have the latest from Freedom Games, Capcom, and more. Take a breath and hold on. We'll be back after this.
IGN Summer of Gaming has officially partnered with the ESA for E3 2021. IGN Summer of Gaming is now all summer long. From major press conferences and announcements at E3 2021 to the IGN Expo with exclusive gameplay and reveals to exciting first looks at the hottest new games and in-depth developer interviews, IGN Summer of Gaming has it all. IGN Summer of Gaming
van a mostrar juegos?
right now.
¿Ya?
There's definitely some kind of vibe that has built up over the years that like it's okay to
No, verdad, van a seguir de
and I think that's got to change.
We've all had bad days. We all get rolled because it's the same like 12-year-old cranking 90s on us in the Fortnite lobby, and we can't build as quick, and he just builds a Taj Mahal and then just drops down on you, and you're angry. I get it, but
I don't think we should all be okay with just accepting like, oh, this is how people talk on this video game. Like that is not okay.
There's a difference between conflict and dialogue. When you're having a conversation, you don't have to agree.
Yeah.
When it's becoming something that's toxic, right? There's no respect.
there's a social contract you enter into as a human when you walk out your front door. That is that you will act with decency, and it follows that this will also be imposed online.
And it's easier to just say, oh, mute your mic or don't say anything, but no, do better.
We just shouldn't foster an environment where saying something bad is okay.
Bueno, esto ha sido una completa mierda.
To grow thicker skin. Having other people in the community that have
No espero nada tampoco de Capcom, así que me vale ver.
Find those people that you connect with and have that support group.
I think just pushing a positive environment is a good place to start.
If you see something, say something. I think it starts with all of us standing up.
I don't know, it just feels like the right thing to do, to speak loudly about things that really matter.
I think over the years, the space has become a lot more welcoming, a lot more open.
There's such an overwhelming presence of like positivity and acceptance and diversity, and
great strides are being made, but I also think that like more can be done from us as the people that like to play them to make sure that that happens.
Keep playing because you love the game, and no one should be able to take you from what you love.
What's up everyone, I'm Stella Chung, and in today's fix, Starfield makes a splash at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, Halo Infinite gets a release window, and we finally know when you can go on ball runs again in Diablo 2 Resurrected. This is your daily fix. Microsoft came out swinging with a look at Bethesda's first new property in over 20 years, Starfield. The in-engine trailer begins on an alien planet aboard a vessel called the Constellation. The narrator talks about venturing into a field of stars, and we get a look inside the interior of the Constellation, which looks reminiscent of the space-age ships from the 60s. Beyond the cinematic trailer, we still don't know much about the gameplay itself. On stage, Todd Howard said that Starfield is about hope and shared humanity. Bethesda also confirmed separately that Starfield will be the first game created on its updated Creation Engine 2, which means improvement to graphical fidelity, among other things. A tweet shared by Bethesda Game Studios themselves stated, "We've spent years developing it to power the next generation of immersion and exploration." And yes, you'll be able to play it on Xbox consoles and PC when it lands on November 11th, 2022. That's not all Team Green had in store for fans, with a deeper look at Halo Infinite and its free-to-play multiplayer. Our first taste of Infinite's multiplayer came in the form of a fast-paced montage of match moments across a variety of maps. Cosmetic upgrades
multiplayer
from
que va a ser
Halo games are
gratis.
making a return, as well as our favorite narrator.
Va a ser free to play. Y encima el pase de batalla va a ser ilimitado.
The experience will reportedly be optimized for every device: PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series
Porque
X,
Xbox
and
sí entiende a la
We also got a
chaviza.
glimpse at the campaign with Master Chief using his grappling hook to pull himself through some zero-gravity wreckage. There seems to be a new AI construct working with the Master Chief, but judging by its dialogue, Cortana may still play a pivotal role in the story. Halo Infinite will be launching on Game Pass at release, but we just don't know when that release date is specifically. Although they did say it was due this holiday after having been originally delayed out of fall 2020. With the remaster of Diablo 2 announced at BlizzConline earlier this year, fans have been wondering just when they can take on the forces of hell again, and we finally have an answer. Diablo 2 Resurrected is hitting consoles and PC on September 23rd. This HD remaster of the classic ARPG will be available on PC via Blizzard's Battle.net and Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. It will include both the Diablo 2 base game and Lord of Destruction expansion. This follows a playable alpha in April, which looked pretty impressive. Despite a few changes, Blizzard is trying to stay true to Diablo 2's roots. If that isn't enough fire and brimstone for you, the remaster will be available standalone or as a part of a bundle, the Diablo Prime Evil Collection. This comprehensive collection contains the Diablo 3 Eternal Collection, which includes Diablo 3, the Reaper of Souls expansion, the Rise of the Necromancer content pack, and a few cosmetic goodies. Pre-orders are available now, and don't forget to pick up Word's Leg so you can open that portal to the Chaos Secret level. With E3 now in full swing, are there some games you're still looking for? Did Microsoft blow your mind? Let us know. I'm Stella Chung, and that was your Daily Fix. Now that you're all caught up on the news, be sure to check out the rest of our E3 coverage on YouTube, across social media, and even on your smart TV. Download the IGN app on all of your mobile devices, subscribe to the Daily Fix on Snapchat, and for all things, everything else, IGN.com.
Welcome back, folks. Freedom Games is our next developer coming up. And you know, when you have games that are like called Cat Cafe Manager or Dog Shelter, I think we can assume that things are going to be pretty fun. So, folks, here's Freedom Games.
I decided, you know what, I've dabbled in indie games. I'm gonna give this one last shot.
Let's just make a game.
It felt like jumping into the deep end.
I realized that making games is like a real thing that you can do.
It's just so, that's the word, is liberating.